was, of course, the upcoming Spider-Man title. It was so big that they actually got to close the press conference with a pretty epic gameplay demo. And joining me now is a good friend of mine. He used to work in the video game journalism world. Now he's just the creative director of the new Spider-Man.
Things have changed, huh?
I know.
Seeing you, Jeff. It's been a while.
It's been a while.
It's actually been almost a year since I last talked about the game.
Exactly. I remember, yeah, you and Bill were up here back at the Shrine last year for the post show. And you announced the game.
Yeah.
You guys went into hiding for a whole year.
Yes.
But
was it? Were you happy with what?
It looks incredible, man.
Thanks,
and like
man.
to close the press conference.
Pretty cool.
Is pretty spectacular.
It's surreal.
You even got the end credits scene at the end of the press conference.
Yeah, did you like that? You picked that up? All right, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good. I was hoping people would pick it up.
That was a fun little moment. So yeah, I think the thing with this is, last year it was a great looking game, but it was, a very controlled trailer, and people were kind of wondering,
90 seconds compared to 9 minutes is a big difference.
Was it 9 minutes?
Roughly 9 minutes.
Wow.
It's I think it's like 8:30, and then when we show the game during the week, we'll show more extended version of this. Yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah, we're excited. You'll be also live on stage at the E3 Coliseum tomorrow.
Yes.
You and the team sharing more about the game.
Yeah,
we can't
talk a lot
wait,
more about it.
Which is great. But yeah, let's talk a bit about this demo. Obviously there have been some great Spider-Man games back when you were a journalist. I'm sure you covered many of the old Activision Spider-Man games.
You're dating me, Jeff. You're dating me.
Hey, but it's like, we can reveal all your secrets
Exactly.
there. But so this is, how open world is this game?
I mean, it's a sprawling, Manhattan. You can swing, as soon as you load up the game, you can go everywhere, right? Mm-hmm. It's open. It's not like hiding parts of the city. So yeah, I mean, you saw when he was chasing the helicopter. I mean, that's our city. You can swing around it as much as you want.
That's very cool.
You should have. And the idea is that no obstacle should be in your way as you go. Just you'll be able to, like you saw the parkour elements, or even when the water tower destroyed, like you just can adapt to those situations.
Wow. Well, it's I got to say, the gameplay, it looks very fluid. And that's something the combat.
That's a big thing we push. We kind of call, like, our kind of term that we use is like the acrobatic improviser. We kind of want combine the ground combat, the air, the webs, the environment interaction, stealth, and even the gadgets to really make you feel like you're ping-ponging around that combat area.
Yeah, no, and I definitely got that sense, and it's cool to see Insomniac. You're known for obviously even Sunset, like great epic sort of exploration. Yeah. But that finesse of sort of that combat feels like it's really there.
Fluidity is the word that you said. That's what we say a lot internally.
That's cool. So tell us about the story of this game.
Okay.
Hopefully you can reveal a little bit more now.
So yeah, I can talk a little bit about it.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously it's early. I mean, we're it's in terms of like we have not talking a ton about it, but I can say it is a unique universe. This is not based on any of the movies or a comic series. This is a brand new universe that we have created alongside Marvel. And our guy, our Peter Parker. I want to clarify that is Peter Parker in that suit.
Yeah.
He's a little bit older. He's 23.
Okay.
So he's been doing this for a while. He has a level of mastery, kind of like think about like an athlete in the prime of his career. So like that all kind of comes out. But at the same time, Peter Parker, the other side of him, is struggling. Struggling to kind of keep his life in order. He's just graduated college. He's got a job. He's trying to make his life, and that kind of those kind of conflict. That's the best cyberspace stories come out. Mm-hmm. But in our story picks up, this is kind of early on in the game. Okay. And we've already, Spider-Man's already taken down Wilson Fisk, who you saw, but a new kind of gang has emerged, this Inner Demons. And this is kind of, as they're going around, going after different Fisk territory, we learn through this who is actually the leader of the Inner Demons, who is Martin Lee. And the thing about, like I said, Peter and Spider-Man's world colliding is there's a reason why when he gets up to the top, he doesn't say Mr. Negative, he says Martin Lee, because in his head, Martin Lee runs the Feast Shelters. Martin Lee is Aunt May's boss, who works at the Feast Shelter. So we see that those two worlds colliding. So that's probably as much as I'm going to say about the story. It's a big story.
How much is there Peter Parker gameplay? Like how much of it is Spider-Man?
Right now I'm just talking about Spider-Man, but I can say Peter Parker is represented really well in this game.
Okay, that's cool. Well, that's why people are always curious about.
I mean, I think the big thing for us is we kind of say it's the story of the man behind the mask as much as the man in it. And Peter is very integral to the experience, whether it's in story or even in gameplay.
Wow. Well, it's a big day for Insomniac, I think, to close the press conference.
We're super excited. It's been a thrill to work on something like this.
Yeah. No, it looks absolutely phenomenal. I'm really excited to see you guys pushing this direction, and you said, announced the press conference, it's not coming this year, it'll be next year,
Next
right?
year, yes.
2018, Spider-Man.
So wait a little bit longer.
No, but I love that you guys are, it's not tied to Homecoming, it's not a movie game.
Yeah,
it's
we
its
just
own
wanted
universe.
to do our own thing, and Marvel really embraced that, and we've just been running with it, so we're super excited.
All right, well, looks incredible, and this is all running on PS4 Pro?
PS4 Pro, 4K, and it'll be HDR, HDR when you come to the booth tomorrow.
Awesome, it'll be playable tomorrow, right?
We'll be playing it for people, yes.
Playing it for people. Yes. All right, fair enough.
Yes.
And we'll see you.
You still got it, Jeff. You still got it.
Just asking. That's all right. And we will see you and the team tomorrow. E3 Coliseum will be streaming live here on YouTube. I think your panel is like at 4:30.
Yeah, we're in the afternoon for sure.
Afternoon. You'll be on stage. We'll learn a little bit more, hopefully, about all things
yes,
Spider-Man.
Got a lot more to talk about.
Awesome. All right. Well, Brian, thank you so much. Now we are going.
Welcome back to PlayStation Live from E3. We're here to talk about Spider-Man. All right. I'm Justin Massengill. This is Sid Schumann. We've got Brian and John here from Insomniac. We got a full couch. We have a lot of people excited about Spider-Man, and I'm very excited that you guys are bringing Spider-Man to PS4 in 2018.
We're excited to bring it.
Let's start by talking about that amazing trailer, gameplay demo, that really long video we saw last night.
That's a mission in the game. It's not a trailer. It's actual a segment of the game.
Yeah, so we saw a lot of crazy Spider-Man high-flying acrobatics. This was really the first time we saw an extended look at actual gameplay from Spider-Man since the big reveal last year.
Yep. I think we showed about like 90 seconds last year and about 8 minutes and 30 seconds, so it's a little bit different.
Yeah, it's a little bit different. And one of the things I think is so interesting about what we're seeing here, and we're seeing it right now, I mean, this is a Peter Parker we don't see too often. This is a more experienced Peter Parker, kind of, really powerful at the height of his powers. We're going to see some of that here in a second. But tell me a little bit about how you guys approached that,
So I think one thing is we wanted to create, first of all, we want to create our own Spider-Man universe. We didn't want to tie it to a particular movie or a particular comic series. John and I talked a lot about, and the rest of Insomniac talked about, like, let's do our own thing, and Marvel totally embraced that. And it started with, let's make him a little bit older. Let's put him, 23 years old, just graduated college, and really at the height of his, mastery of his powers. So, when it comes to his combat or traversal, or even his gadgets, because he's a smart kid at the same time, or a smart young man at the time, right? And that all hopefully is represented throughout this demo.
Yeah, it really shows in the video that we saw and in the stuff that we're seeing on screen here. So many cool, like, acrobatic takedowns he's doing, zipping around, like stringing guys up with his webs. It looks like you guys got that swinging mechanic, which is so hard to get right.
Critical, though.
It's hard.
Looks like you put a lot into that.
I think John and I talk a lot about, and obviously Rest Insomniac, which I'm just going to say Insomniac because it's everybody, this is a fantasy fulfillment, right? We want to feel like Spider-Man, whether we're swinging through the city, fighting, or even the story that we're telling. We want to put you in the role of that character, so we just want to have that be expressed as best as humanly possible.
Yeah, this looks incredible. I was telling you guys earlier that I'm a huge Spider-Man fan, and I feel like this game really kind of takes all of the different elements of Spider-Man, of Peter Parker, the storytelling, his relationships, his snarkiness, and the one-liners and all that stuff.
Well, I'll let the lead writer talk about that.
Yeah, I feel like it really takes all that.
It's one of the challenges with working on a Spider-Man game is that he's got all these quips that he can do, and that's something that I think a lot of people expect. However, in a video game where you do a lot of things, over and over again, you don't want to have the same quips, so that's a big challenge for our writing team, is making sure that you get the feeling of Peter Parker and Spider-Man, but you don't get the repetition.
Yeah, I think it's, for us, is have him look at the situation he's in, that particular situation, and comment on that situation. Like, there's a reason why he says something about a Higgs field when he's fighting that big guy in the bridge.
Yeah.
Use the situation of what's happening to drive the humor rather than just, I'm just going to say one line for the sake of saying one line, because...
Well, I love how he doesn't, get intimidated by it. He says, wow, that's actually pretty cool.
Yeah. I mean, remember, he's a smart guy. He sees that. It's impressive to him.
And it's about science, too.
And it's about science.
Part of his character. He sees this guy, and he's like, oh, it's a Higgs boson. Wow.
I think the other thing for us is, outside of the humor, it's the relatability of the character, and there's that part, one of my favorite lines is the very end of the helicopter sequence. He's looking down the helicopter, go to first person, he goes, please don't screw this up.
Yeah.
So even though
that's because he's always thinking that.
Because I'm always thinking about the game, I'm like, oh, please, let's not screw this up. Please don't screw it up. There's actually probably a line in every trailer that's about us as a team making sure we don't screw it up. Yeah, because I think it was last time it was no pressure, right? I'm like, there's no pressure. And now it's don't screw this up. There's a level of that relatability that we want to come across, which I think what makes people like you love Spider-Man so much is that you can relate to him in some way, and we want to make sure that comes across in.
I've never met anyone else who can shoot webs out of his wrists.
Well, he's a really smart guy. He just creates web shooters. So hopefully, you can just make your own web shooter.
So, speaking of no pressure, this is an original story that you guys are putting together. This isn't based on a certain comic book arc. This isn't based on a movie. You guys are giving us your own take on Spider-Man. And John, you're the lead writer. No pressure, right?
Yeah, so there is a lot of pressure because it's a character that we all know and love, right? And you have to be able to give people what they want, in being able to be Spider-Man. But you also want to have something new and fresh so that, you're not just experiencing the same movie or the same comic, storyline that you had before.
Yeah, two things really drive us, I think, on that element is, one, like you said, everybody knows Spider-Man. So we want to respect the tradition of the franchise. We want to stick to that DNA, but at the same time, we also want to surprise people.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is, you get a hint of it in the demo, but as we get more into the story is this idea that the best stories when it comes to this character are when Peter's world and Spider-Man worlds collide.
Yeah.
And you saw some of that a little bit in the trailer where when he shows up at the top of that bridge, that tower, he says Martin Lee. He doesn't say Mr. Negative, because for him, he's like, Martin Lee, I know that guy. He runs the feast shelter. My Aunt May, works at the feast shelter. So you're seeing that collision of his two worlds. And we feel like that's something that's driving us across the entire experience, and we'll make a great story at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's really the bedrock of the whole story is Peter Parker and Spider-Man. Make sure that we represent both.
I got to just remark on this incredible footage here. And I mean, just to clarify, this is an open world game.
Yes.
I mean, worth just confirming that for the record.
Yes, it is an open world. That is Peter Parker in the suit. So I just want to clarify based on a thing that happens at the end of the demo. That is Peter Parker. He actually says Pete in one line because I've memorized every line of dialogue, and when it plays, I can tell you what it's probably saying at this point. Yes, it is. You will have freedom to explore the city. It's big. For us, New York City is a character within itself, right? And we want to deliver on that fantasy, just like when it comes to traversal, comes to combat, comes to this human story. New York City is such identified with its character, and our artists, our designers, our world builders, everybody in Insomniac is making sure we deliver on that fantasy.
It's so cool. The artists have this map, this really detailed map of every neighborhood in Manhattan, and they all have its own name, and it's really cool how the team is working.
I was playing the game, like, just a little inside baseball. Like, I was playing the game before the show because we had we're working on things.
Sure.
And this one thing I was playing, it makes you go around the city, and I was like, man, this city's big. Our character moves pretty fast, and he can, and for us, like, the way that we've designed the traversal, like, no obstacle is too big for him. Like, you can just constantly parkour your way through if you snap the line or something. And it just feels like a big place I want to explore, and we're definitely going to deliver on that.
A big city that looks really fun to explore because you're Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And it looks like you guys really nailed the swinging mechanics and the wall running and all that stuff.
Yeah, we definitely want to, level accessibility with, like, hey, I want to feel like Spider-Man right away, but then there's that extra level of stuff that we're doing behind closed doors that, like, you can vary up how you get to that helicopter.
Oh, nice.
You saw certain people perch, you can just run up walls. That turn that he does around the corner, that's actually the character, the player saying, I'm going to run alongside this wall, and then I want to do a sharp turn. Just press right on the D-pad, and boom, he does that swing around.
Nice.
If he hadn't done that, he would just kept going down the other street.
I need to figure out where you guys are doing this, and I need to get in there.
Yeah, I mean, it's a level of, like, we want you to jump in and feel like Spider-Man, but then we want to have those levels of, like, when I see, like, someone like Scott, one of our project managers, play the game, I'm like, I want to play like that.
Okay, last question from me. We saw Martin Lee, Mr. Negative, last night. Is he the antagonist of the game? This is the first time we've really seen a villain, or like, what's the deal?
I'm glad you brought up Martin Lee, aka Mr. Negative, because one of the things we talked about unique Spider-Man universe, right? And part of that journey for us was say, we want to have some classic characters that people really know really well, like Wilson Fisk, Kingpin, who we saw in that. And our game actually starts with taking down Kingpin and this new group, but also having characters you may not know about, they're newcomers, like Martin Lee, Captain Yuri Watanabe, who's talking to you on the phone. We want to have a good mix of them. So Martin Lee has a very big part in the game, but we have a very big cast. We've kind of just scratched the surface of the story. It's a big story. Like, I was presenting to somebody a couple weeks ago, and I just sat back and go, That's a pretty big story. There's a lot of things going on. So it's just, we're giving you hints. We're going to definitely talk more about that and really kind of show you all elements of our journey between.
But one of the things I love about Martin Lee is that, we talked about this collision of Peter Parker's life and Spider-Man's life. Martin Lee, as a character, he has a positive and a negative side,
Yep.
right? It's Martin Lee, it's Mr. Negative. And thematically, that's really fun to play with in the story.
That's a classic superhero trope, too, I mean, there's a lot of other characters, but I think Spider-Man kind of uniquely tackles that.
Yeah, I think what we noticed is his best villains throughout his years are the ones he has some type of connection with.
Dr. Octopus.
And I don't want to say any name because then it's if people go, oh, he's in the game or she's in the game.
But we know the names.
Careful.
We know the names.
Yeah. But I think it's when he has that connection to that character as Peter, it just means a lot more. It makes for a better journey as you're playing this game.
Yeah, that's right. So you guys are coming out in 2018.
Yep.
What are you going to be doing between now and then? Like, what's next on the agenda as you?
What are we not going to be doing? I mean, from up and down, from the building the world to our missions to our story. Getting feedback from this conference and injecting into the game.
You can send me a build. I'll give you as much feedback as you need.
It's everything. I mean, you guys are interviewing a lot of talented developers. They probably all say these are not easy things to create.
Yep.
And for us, we know how important this character is.
Yeah.
It's important to me. I mean, I grew up with this character. Like, I've been telling people, like, my mom used to give me my Spider-Man action figure because it was the only thing to distract me when she was shopping in a store, and I'd create these scenarios with the action figures. To now, today, watching all those movies and TV shows.
And this is the ultimate realization of you getting to play with that Spider-Man figure.
I mean, we talk about, power and responsibility. At Insomniac, we feel a lot of responsibility to make this as good as people want it to be. And it's a lot of stress. It's a lot, but we're so excited to work on it and really humbled to be able to have this opportunity.
And we also do a lot of iteration, too. Like, you asked what we're going to be doing. We're going to be redoing stuff, and making sure we do it until it's great.
So it's going to look even better, in other words.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think you see the difference between last year's trailer and this year's trailer.
For sure.
I mean, I think you're definitely seeing improvements across the board, and that will continue as development goes on.
And speaking of how it looks, I was just checking out the trailer earlier on PlayStation's YouTube channel. It's in 4K there.
Yep.
And I know you guys are doing a lot of support with PS4 Pro, so just give me a quick overview
so
of that.
actually we are showing the game. We are in our demos. We're showing it in 4K, running on PS4 Pro, HDR support.
Awesome.
Nice. But I will tell you, like, I play the game at my desk and a regular PS4, and it looks great.
I have no doubt.
It just looks great. So I think both versions look fantastic.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I couldn't be more excited that Insomniac is working on a Spider-Man game. It's a match made in heaven. Comes out next year. That's Spider-Man coming to PS4, has PS4 Pro support, 4K HDR, all the bells and whistles. Brian, John, Sid, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
And stay tuned. We'll have a lot more coming up on the PlayStation Live from E3.
3 big panels still ahead, but right now, as you can see on the screen, it's time to take a trip into the world of Spider-Man. Please welcome your host, Agent M.
Hello! Hello! Hi. How's everybody doing? Excellent. I am Agent M, but I'm not the star of the show. Spider-Man and the people who make Spider-Man are the stars, so let's bring them on in. Bill Roseman, creative director. Brian Intihar from Insomniac. John Paquette from Insomniac.
Writer.
And, this is just a good time. We're relaxing. Nothing big has happened for this game
Hey, Ryan.
yet in a while.
How are you?
I'm doing well.
What brings you here?
Ryan. I am here to talk to you here in Los Angeles, as well as on Facebook and the internet about Spider-Man, PlayStation 4. So excited.
Yes.
Gentlemen, please tell the audience what you do.
Okay, so I guess we'll
Bill, you
go
go
this way.
first.
So my name is Bill Roseman. I've been lucky enough to be working with Marvel since the early 90s. Helped write comics, edit comics, market comics. About 2.5 years ago, we kind of reassembled the Marvel Games team. I leaped out here, and one of the first things I heard about that we were making was this game, and I was totally psyched, and it feels, in a weird way, that my whole life's journey has brought me here today to work on this because I'm a true dyed-in-the-wool loved Spider-Man since I was in kindergarten. So as creative director, I just work with all of our partners, like our friends Insomniac, who are only 10 minutes away. So we go over there at least once a week and just help make our games authentically
15
Marvel.
minutes of traffic.
Yes.
Yeah, 15 minutes of traffic.
John, how about yourself?
I'm John Paquette. I'm the lead writer on Spider-Man PS4. I've been in Insomniac for, I don't know, 8 years.
Yeah.
8 years. Thank you,
Yeah,
Brian.
You're welcome.
Previous to this game, I worked on Sunset Overdrive, Ratchet & Clank, Resistance 3, and then I was at EA before that for many years.
You're also like my shrink.
I'm your
half the time.
shrink,
Yes,
yeah.
got half the time. Hi, everyone. My name is Brian Intihar. I'm the creative director at Insomniac working on Spider-Man. I've been at Insomniac for over 9 years now, thanks to Ryan Schneider for hiring me. He's back there. And like Bill, this is a dream come true to be actually sitting in front of you guys and be able to show you more of Spider-Man, something we've been at Insomniac really passionate about. So, and the reaction so far has been awesome. So we'll just start talking about the game.
Let's do it. So I've been a fan of Insomniac's for a while, from Ratchet & Clank to Sunset Overdrive, which one of my favorite games of the past couple years. And so when I first heard that we were teaming up together for Spider-Man, flipped. I legitimately lost it. Got really excited. Almost punched Bill in the face. Loving punch Bill in the face.
Oh,
but
that's how we show affection at Marvel.
Sealed the deal creatively working with Insomniac.
I think it was the
my smile.
Yeah, I was gonna say it was the excellent variety of refreshments in your kitchenette. It's quite refreshing.
It's a great kitchen. Yeah.
So no, it's exactly what you talked about. All their heritage of the games they've worked on. When you talk about quality, when you talk about gameplay, when you talk about storytelling, and most importantly for a character such as Spider-Man, fun, a sense of fun and humor, and that sealed the deal. And we couldn't be happier to working with our friends at Insomniac.
Yeah, it's what just happened.
Whoa,
that's a celebration
We're
of how
so
fun
excited.
it is.
So pop the champagne.
Pop the
All right.
Stuff is exploding.
Perfect timing.
Brian, I've heard you tell this story before. It's kind of like a story of how parents meet, and it's like this wonderful story, like you tell people over and over again. But for the crowd here, for the crowd watching at home, what was your reaction? What did you do when you heard about this partnership?
All right. This is it's one of my favorite stories. So we were finishing up a game, and development's hard sometimes, and you can get a little blurry-eyed. And I was happening to walk near Ted's office. Ted Price is our CEO, and I said, "Hey, so what's going on?" He's like, "I had a really interesting conversation," and it was this idea of working with Sony and Marvel on a game, and I my eyes just. And I was like, we got to do this. We got to do this. We have to. And then halfway through the conversation, I said, oh yeah, and I'd like to be the creative director on the project. And he was like, all right. And that was it. That was really it. What? This is that hot.
Spider-Man to the rescue!
Oh, there it is.
Wow. This game is super hot. As you can tell, yeah. Don't worry about the fire. Woo. Okay, so I'll back up for a second. So, went to Ted's office, asked him let's do this, creative director, and then the rest is, fast forward to today, and
we're blowing things up.
And we're catching things on fire, and yeah, it's been awesome.
Yeah, John, you're writing the game. You're working on the story for one of pop culture's most popular characters. What's that like? What's that feeling?
Well, kind of similar to Brian, I had a moment early on in this game. I was actually working on a scene from home, one of the first scenes that I wrote, and when I first typed Spider-Man into my computer, my hands started shaking, and I had to stop and go into the next room and tell my wife, I'm writing for Spider-Man. This is amazing, because like everybody, I was a huge fan as a kid. I subscribed to all the Spider-Man comics that I could, and yeah, it's a privilege, but also, I hate to overuse the word responsibility, but I do feel like I have a responsibility as a storyteller to make sure that I do my best and we do our best as a team.
Yeah.
Guys, hold on. We're going to take a small break here just for a technical thing. We're going to go to
Stan Lee
Slate,
would say.
and we're going to
Behind Spider-Man. Thank you so much, guys, for your patience and understanding. So glad we can just roll ahead with the panels. So we're going to bring these guys out. We'll pick up where we left off with the Spider-Man panel, and then on to Project Scorpio, Jack Black, Tim Schafer. So enjoy the rest of the Coliseum, and back to you guys.
Oh, thanks, bud.
Over to you.
Thank you.
So, anything happen in the last like 15 minutes or so? Seems pretty normal, chill stuff happened.
I'm Brian.
Okay, cool. Cool.
This one? Oops, thank you.
I want to thank the man in the Scarlet Spider costume out there for leaping into action.
Yeah.
Thank you, Spidey.
That is awesome.
Thank you.
That's awesome.
Thumbs up. Only you can prevent stage fires.
That's awesome.
All right, are we rolling? We're live. We're up again. So we had so much planned for you guys. You had no idea, but we're gonna cut
It was
going to
be awesome.
One of the things we wanted to do was show the amazing gameplay that we debuted. Was that just last night?
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
So we want to show that, but also let these gentlemen talk a little bit about it, give you a little bit of a behind the scenes, like a commentary on the video so you can see like the process behind it. So let's run that and we'll go from there.
I thought they were looking at me, though.
Yes. Oh, look this way. Nice logo. Better logo. Kidding.
Whoa,
We kid. We kid. We
What's
kid.
going on
We kid because
I
we
got his
love.
back.
We kid. We
Whoa.
kid because we love. Better, right? Right. At the street. Look at that sign.
Construction
Storytelling.
and some guy.
Nice spider.
He must work
How
it
many
out.
iterations of the costume have you guys gone through to reach this, what I think is really, really cool, really iconic and different?
A lot.
It took a few. Yeah, we did a
Yeah, I
big.
mean, I think we wanted something that definitely people understood. This is ours. This is our game. You know, it stood out from other forms of comics, movies.
So when you
cartoons.
see him, you'd say, "That's Spider-Man from
Yeah.
Spider-Man PS4."
He's got a nice butt too. We talked about.
We
the
worked
butt
on that for
a
even
lot.
longer.
Yeah.
Come on.
It's true, the butt technology is fantastic. What happened? The butt was too much?
The butt is on fire. I like Spider-Man's butt, and I cannot lie.
We can skip ahead, or we can talk about logos again.
Let's go back a bit. Let's
Yeah.
really let's take a step back. Let's experience it again.
What is the forget about it sign
Forget about
over
it.
there?
The pizza
we have
place.
we have a lot of
A lot
fun
of Easter
signage.
eggs throughout. Look to the signs, people. Whose construction?
Fisk.
Fisk.
So I think that's important to talk about at the beginning of the game. Spider-Man takes down Wilson Fisk.
That's right.
And
So,
a new
yeah,
threat emerges.
That's right. So as you see later when he's on the phone, you see Wilson Fisk in the orange, and you realize, oh my gosh, Spider-Man is taking down Fisk, and it creates power vacuum. Who steps in? The inner demons. Who are the inner demons? That's what the scene explores.
You're good, Bill.
Fine. But we really did think about the storytelling
Yes.
of this as we were going through. Is it clear? Do we know where the building is? That's why you get the Fisk sign. You get the names on the back of the workers, Fisk. So you know who they work for.
And I'd say for this section is really about showing that it's not just high intense action the whole time. Spider-Man can kind of manipulate the situation with his abilities, whether it's webbing guys up, using gadgets here like the web tripwire, which by the way, there's a lot of
Tripwire?
uses to that. Just shows that one way, but you can also the cool thing is attach it to enemies, and if they're close together, they'll slam into each other. Or like some people do, they'll stick them to the wall, kick someone up in the air, and then while they're in the air, they get slammed into the ground. So.
And then using his environment, as we just saw, using the crane, slamming it into the
Yeah.
inner demons.
Environment action is a really big emphasis for us.
In the testing that you guys have just been doing internally and playing around with it, have you seen uses of the gadgets of the environment that you didn't even really think of?
Yeah, so
Totally.
I'll tell you a little as we got ready for E3, we kind of we had tryouts to see who was going to demo the game because we have a couple different areas we're playing the game, and people would play it, and then we would review the videos, and you had like make the cut list, right? And some guys and some people just made awesome videos. Like, oh, you can do this. So it was really cool to see people inside the studio experiment and try different things. So we were really
and those of us
excited.
who aren't as good at the game
Talk about it.
Yeah, when we see these other people play it, we're like, man, how do you do it? Show me how you do that. You know, that kind of thing.
It just goes to show you how improvisational
Yeah.
Spider-Man's fighting style can be and how you can be as Spider-Man.
And one thing we talk about, you know, like we
Here's the
want
Wilson Fisk
people
moment.
who
On the phone.
just pick up the game and play, feel powerful like Spider-Man, but want that extra level of stuff that you can do to really feel creative and really master the game.
So there's Wilson Fisk, a.k.a. the Kingpin. You may have enjoyed his exploits in Daredevil's Netflix Daredevil. In our story, he's been put away. And again, here's this force stepping in. And Spider-Man now must figure out what's going on, who these people are.
Yeah. And one thing is, you know, we're showing, you know, him saving just one guy, two guys in this demo. The actual mission has him actually exploring this entire area for more Fisk men he has to save. So it's actually a much bigger mission in the final version.
And we just saw a moment ago him using the girder to take them out. Again, Spider-Man's always using his environment.
And he would never let anybody fall to their doom, so he pulls them back.
That's right.
Yeah, that's an important part.
One of the lessons Bill
It is.
Rosen
I
has
said,
taught us.
you
over the
cannot knock anyone off the building.
Yep.
So they were careful to make him web the guy, pull him back on. Here's the Heavy.
So I think one thing about the Heavy, the Bruiser that we call, I think it's a good thing is that people say, you know, how are you going to make the game challenging? You know, because you're a superhero, you want to feel powerful, but we want enemies that challenge Spider-Man. The negative powers that he's imbued with allow us to have enemy classes that are really challenging you, force to mix up your strategy like he's doing here. And you're gonna see that throughout the entire game and see more different types of inner demons as you play the game.
Yeah, the inner demons, for those of you who know the comics, writer Dan Slott and many amazing artists have, you know, put years of story behind these characters who we're going to see shortly. Martin Lee, he's tied to Feast, which we can see on the show floor.
I want to talk about something because I know Bill's going to talk about it, but I want to sound smarter for him than one time. All right, so there is a reason why Pete says Martin Lee instead of Mr. Negative, because he knows that Martin Lee is Aunt May's boss, because Aunt May works at the Feast shelters that Martin Lee started.
That's right.
So, you know, one thing we talked a lot about, actually, it was the first conversation we ever had with Bill, was the best Spider-Man stories are when Spider-Man's world and Peter's world collide. And Martin Lee's a great example of that, and which is one of the reasons why we love the idea of Mr. Negative, because the inner demons are awesome. They're great enemies to fight, but Martin Lee brings that human story, that Peter story that he can collide with Spider-Man. So it's something really, really important to us. How did I do?
You get an official no prize. Yeah, Mr. Negative is a villain that a lot of people don't know about, but really, I mean, our attitude at Marvel and Marvel Games now is we're going to use our games to help spotlight and elevate characters that you may have not seen before. So it will be a mix of characters that you know, like the Kingpin, but we want to take someone like Mr. Negative and really put the spotlight on him and show everyone why he is so cool. He's a villain that's only been in he's been invented about 6 years ago, so he's only been in you know, a handful of comics really in the history of Marvel. But this game is really going to put the spotlight on him, and he's going to become one of your favorite villains.
And I think we've only really scratched the surface of his story that we're saying in here. I mean, there's some subtle hints here and there, but his story's pretty complex when we dig into it.
Speaking of complex, this sequence, we missed some of, like, my favorite. I think the first time I saw
the crane?
I was like, what is even happening? When you're going on the crane and all those things, like, it's mind-blowing. What was that sequence like?
Well, we have an amazing animation team, and you know, one of the things that we do a lot at Insomniac is iterate. We try out ideas, we see what works, and that is you know, through the collaboration of a lot of people, a lot of ideas. You know, that's what comes out of that. Another example of that is we don't have the audio on, but there's a lot of dialogue, a lot of stuff that Spider-Man is saying in here. And we actually wrote like over 400 lines, you know, for this mission. We're actually only using about 40 of them, you know. But that's another example of, you know, you got to iterate to make sure you get the voice right, make sure, you know, you're getting the tone right. Spider-Man is a guy who, you know, he likes to have fun, but he's also in precarious situations. So, you know, it's a fine line to try to get that right.
Hey, Ryan, I think they're flashing saying go to Q&A.
Oh, but look, Spider-Man's butt. We've got so much more butt. Let's let this play behind us. We'll keep going with that. Q&A, we've got some stuff coming in from the Facebooks, from, we've got Matthew Tharoff asked a question about sort of the openness of this game, the cityscape, and I think we've seen some of like Spider-Man traversing the terrain, going completely vertical. What does the city look like for Spidey?
Yeah, some people, if I was watching the reactions like at 3 o'clock in the morning last night because I want to see what everybody thought, and when I heard some like, oh, is that a linear experience? It's like, no, our world is very open to explore, and it's, it wouldn't feel like a Spider-Man game if we didn't have a massive Manhattan for you to swing through. So you're definitely going to be able to swing around this section of the city and more with all the freedom you want.
Yeah. There's a question in here from a Garrett Merciel. Wants to see, there's a question from Angelina Montanari, asks, what other characters will we see from Spider-Man's world? And I think even in the sequence, we see Spidey is swinging through, he's saving everyone's lives. He's also taking a phone call.
Yeah.
He's taking a phone call with a
Captain. That's Captain Yuri Watanabe, another character who is fairly new to the Spider-Man mythos, and she is his contact on the police force.
Yep.
And again, we wanted to do that mission, that mix of longtime familiar faces, and also introduce some new characters to you that Spider-Man interacts with.
The cast is really big. All right, I mean, we're not, these are the characters we're talking about today, but you'll see, I mean, I remember Bill and I were doing a presentation a couple weeks ago, and we were walking our way through a story, and I came back to talk to John, and I was like, John, this is a really big game. It's a really big story, and this really just scratching the surface. And I think, as Bill said, it's a healthy collection of like characters you really love and know, and ones that we're introducing you to. Like,
and here's our stinger.
Almost
Speaking
on
of characters,
cue. Wow.
Speaking of characters that you know, who's that? Miles. Miles Morales, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
Also in the game. That's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
That's such a great last moment of that video. Last question we're going to pull in is from Sofian Rahim asking, what are the swinging options like? What is the traversal through using his webs and that throughout the city? Is there boosting? Like, you see some of that as you're going through. What's that?
So a couple things. So we knew that nailing the swinging was integral to making a Spider-Man game. It had, and that's the fantasy, right? That's one of the largest parts of the fantasy. So, we wanted to do it justice, and obviously physics-based. Webs do attach to the buildings. That's a big question that everybody asks. But at the same time, we wanted to expand his moveset, and you saw some of that. Remember, we're talking about a Peter Parker who's 23 years old. He's been doing it for 8 years. And for our game, we want to keep up that momentum, that fluidity, and make sure there's no obstacle that he can't overcome. So you saw some of the parkour elements that we've added. And while we show that in an interior section, that same system applies to if he's on a rooftop, if he's on the ground, he can leap, jump, and just keep on going. We really want to push that sense that he's mastered that ability to.
And there is player skill involved in that as well. Like in this playthrough, you saw that the player kept up with the helicopter, but you need some skill in order to do that, and you can lose the helicopter if you're not good.
Yeah, as we're doing the demos for E3, I'm working with our producer Scott, and he's been playing the game, and every single time I'm like, oh, please don't fail, please don't fail. I mean, you have to keep up with that helicopter, and there's different ways to keep up with it and manipulate the environment to catch up to it.
Very nice. All right, so we want to, where we can find you guys on social media. I think we have a little slide here. You can bug us, ask all the questions you want, all the requests, send them directly to Brian and Bill. They're already getting them, guys. They're getting
Follow
so
us,
many.
Like us, send us questions. I want to say one last thing. This, as you can tell, this game is made by fans for the fans. So we are with you. We love Spider-Man just as much as you do. Thank you for your support. Thank you for coming with us on this journey. The best is yet to come. Thwip.
I love Bill Roseman so much. He is the best. These guys are wonderful. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, John. Thank you, E3 Coliseum. Enjoy your next panel.
What an E3 it's been, Tim.
Oh, my God.
I think at the top of everyone's list of amazing shit they've seen.
Amazing, spectacular, would you say?
I would say ultimate. Spider-Man.
Oh, my God.
So many descriptors.
Yeah,
So
right.
many.
What do we think of Spider-Man so far from what you guys have seen?
Like it, good footage, good footage.
It is unbelievable.
There it is.
There
What do you guys think of the White Spider?
Yeah.
Good? Good?
Now, Greg Miller over here has a lot of thoughts on the White Spider.
I get it. Since you've debuted it,
Right.
I understood. When Insomniac debuted it, I totally got it.
Yeah,
and
sure.
today, when we were getting our behind closed doors demo from Brian,
Right.
he drove it home of like, we want you to look at it and say, oh, it's Spider-Man, but see it and say, oh, that's not a Spider-Man I immediately know. I need to understand who it is, and now it's Insomniac's.
Exactly. For all of our games, when we work with our partners, we want them to bring their vision to the game.
Yeah.
And we want, when they approach the Marvel characters, we want them to be very familiar and identifiable, but also unique and ownable for each game. So when you see Spider-Man, it's not just any Spider-Man. Like, that's Spider-Man from Marvel Spider-Man on PS4.
And yeah, we're building a new universe with Insomniac, a new Spider-Man. You're telling a new story, right? So we want to make sure that it still feels right, but it's new and different. You don't know what's going to happen.
I mean, we did a huge study of the costume because, we think Spider-Man is one of the, if not the, best designed superhero costumes of all time.
Damn.
So if we change anything, we want to understand what the original suit did. What does the red mean, what the blue means, the white, all the elements, even the spokes on the mask, how many should there be? So we studied it, and before we changed anything, we just said, how can we analyze it, how can we add something to it, but still respect Stan Lee, Steve Ditko, John Romita Sr., and all the great creators who made that suit what it is.
Well, what I loved about Brian talking about it today, because he's doing the developer thing. We're not talking about this. Hey, who else? Are there any?
You're not going to get any secrets from us.
I'm not looking for the secrets. I'm complimenting you.
Hey, we protect the secrets.
I'm saying what he was saying, though, that kind of started bringing me around on the suit, on the White Spider.
Yeah.
Was he's like, somebody asked in the crowd, how much liberty has Marvel given you to play with it? And he's like, well, as long as we can justify anything we're doing, that's how we do it. And he's like, there's a reason the suit looks like the suit.
Yeah.
And so I understand, of course. I'm saying, stick with me.
I'm sticking with
Uncle
you, Greg.
Ben had some kind of White Spider business. It was his logo, and now he's keeping on, right?
Not canon. Not canon.
I actually have a side White Spider business if you guys want to buy some white.
Oh, you're selling White
White
Spider?
Spider sounds
Yeah.
awesome. So
No,
my
but
favorite thing is, so Brian, the creative director on the game, his passion was so obvious, not just from him talking about the game, but showing it in just every little detail, how stoked and hyped he was for how Spider-Man it looked and felt. Like, you can just see looking at this, you're like, oh man, they nailed it. Like, within 5 seconds, you're like, they got it right.
Yeah, Brian and the team at Insomniac are incredible. They're all like super passionate about, and from day one, just immerse themselves in Spider-Man. And we're lucky because we're just right down the road from Insomniac Games. Our office is like 10 minutes away from their office.
So we're
Bill
there
and I
once or twice a
get
week.
to visit them. We get to see stuff in progress. We get to talk about the story. We get to talk about the gameplay. We get to talk about the suit design. And it's not just for the show. It's palpable every day in there, how much they love Spider-Man and how much they care. We all care so deeply about it. I mean, everybody remembers when they first met Spider-Man, their first experience with Spider-Man. I had a cardboard standee of Spider-Man in my bedroom growing up. I was an artist in a former life, which still hangs, by the way, in my mom's 7th grade classroom. And so Spider-Man's a very important character to everybody. And like, none of that is lost on anybody in Insomniac, and it shows.
Yeah, I mean, the first lunch we got together, we were sitting around talking about, hey, when's the first time you experienced Spider-Man? And we all realized that when we were all 6 years old, we all had the same Spider-Man underoos.
Yeah.
So we have loved this character all our lives, and we really live and breathe that idea of power and responsibility.
And Bill's son's name is Peter, just in case you had any
There you
question.
go.
About the level of dedication we're talking about.
Nailed it.
Yeah.
So now, we jumped right into this. It's E3. We're excited. Spider-Man. What I didn't do a good job for everybody watching at home is to explain who you guys are.
Oh, yeah, let's rewind it.
You're
Let's
Marvel
rewind.
Games.
Yeah.
So we're Marvel Games.
Yeah.
We're out here in Glendale.
We out here.
About 2.5 years ago,
Yeah.
they kind of reassembled the Marvel Games team. I came from the East Coast. I've been lucky enough to be working with Marvel in publishing since the early 90s. I started writing for Marvel Age magazine, and then I joined the staff and became a copywriter, then started writing comics, and then started editing comics. Had that long run, and
Bill's being modest. He edited all the Guardians of the Galaxy comics that became the inspiration for the films.
Yeah, he did.
Put that team
Yeah,
together.
he did, Bill.
Right. So
I remembered Rocket
he's
Raccoon
being modest.
when I was 14, and there was that Rocket Raccoon miniseries, and I said, I want to bring him back. Everyone made fun of me.
Yeah.
I said, come on. He's short. He's furry. He'll be our Wolverine. He's a rocket with a big gun and a jetpack. What's not to like?
Attitude.
Oh, yeah.
And there you go. You made it happen.
And then the call came to reassemble the games team, and I wanted to work with this guy, so I jetted out here. And Mike Jones came from 2 decades of building games, traveling the world.
Yeah, so I'm a lifelong Marvel fan and worked in game development, game publishing my whole career, and never thought I would ever get a chance to work on Marvel properties or games. And I worked at Capcom for a while, which was a brush with Marvel.
Yeah.
But then, 2.5 years ago, this opportunity came up, and Marvel was getting really serious about like, hey, our games should be awesome as all of our other entertainment movies, TV, publishing. So we're like, all right, let's do it. Let's partner with the best in the business.
And here we are.
Here we are.
Well,
And for years, people are like, where are you? When we join, they're like, where are your big games? Where are the console games? And it's like, it takes time.
Yeah,
It takes time. You have to get
Been in
there.
the
But
creative cave.
that's the thing is, it's like
Yeah.
that time and energy, it's going to pay off.
Yeah.
And it's already starting to pay off. I remember when Greg and I got to go see Avengers
Ultron.
2
yeah.
back in the day, and it was because the Marvel Games got us in, and there was this whole presentation before, and they're like, we are Marvel Games. This is our future.
Yeah.
We are building towards this. We're partnering with Telltale for this. We're doing like all these different partnerships, and now to see Spider-Man with Insomniac, to see Avengers with Square, it's like we're building this Marvel Games universe that is so exciting, and
sure.
I feel that the quality control is the most important thing, and that's obvious that you guys
And
get that.
that's what takes the time. You know, we don't want to rush anything out. We don't want to do Spider-Man the game that's a game based on the movie and rush it out for a movie window. That's not what we're about. We're like, let's just make the best Spider-Man game and release it when it's ready.
And think of gaming as it's not a derivative business. It's another pillar of the brand. You know, people, the movies come out twice a year, starting 3 times a year this year. We have our Netflix shows, TV shows that people love to binge and watch. Comics, people are reading the comics weekly, monthly. But people are playing our games every day and experience our characters, stories every day. It's an opportunity to tell new stories, engage with fans in different ways, introduce them to new characters they may not know about, as you've seen Mr. Negative, Martin Lee, Miles Morales, Yuri Watanabe, right? We're going to keep mixing it up. But games is a very, very important destination now for Marvel storytelling, Marvel fans, and the quality you've come to know and love from that Marvel brick.
Right.
We want you to see that Marvel logo on a game package and be like, oh, it's going to be awesome.
Yeah, seeing
Right?
Mr. Negative in this
Yeah.
game, I think, is such a huge selling point because
Yeah.
that shows that it is not just the Green Goblin story we've seen a million times. This is really for fans, and I think even for people that aren't necessarily the hardcore Spider-Man fans, it's a good introduction to the wider world.
You may not know who he is, but you're going to learn.
Exactly.
We wanted to mix it up, and we're really inspired by like looking at our Netflix shows, and you see Jessica Jones, and most people did not know like what's a Killgrave, what's a Purple Man. Now we knew what a Purple Man was, and they really put the spotlight on him and elevated
Made him so cool.
And so we thought this was our opportunity to, we're going to have a lot of familiar faces in this game, but why not pick a character that we believe in? It's only been in comics for the past 5 to 6 years, but we believe has a great potential. Let's put the spotlight on him, let's elevate him, and then the world will be like, I love Mr. Negative, he's awesome.
Which, to be clear, it's not like we're like, oh, this game has to have Mr. Negative. That was Brian and the team coming to us being like, we want to take this character and put our spin on it and like introduce him to the world. And we're like, hell yeah, let's do it.
So that's an issue for me. How did these partnerships start? You guys, 2.5 years ago, we're bringing Marvel games together. We're only going to put out good stuff. Is it you then going to Insomniac? Is it Insomniac coming to you?
It's music and lyrics, man. Like, so
Bit of both.
sometimes you write the music first. Sometimes partners come to us and they're like, hey, we have an awesome pitch for a game. We have a really cool idea. We'll talk about it. We'll high five. We'll rock and roll. Sometimes we're like, we really respect this developer. We really respect, what these developers do, these creatives do in this space, this genre, whatever it is. We think this will be a good fit, and we go proactively talk to them. So we're actively planning what our portfolio looks like, what types of games we're making, what platforms they're on. We're looking at mobile, console, PC, VR, all kinds of stuff, right? And we want to put the best characters and franchises and experience on the best platforms with the developers that are best at doing that stuff. And that's the fun that we get to have is we're not just one developer or one publisher. We get to go out and work with the best of the best, right? And I think you mentioned it earlier about some of the announcements we made towards the end of last year and this year, our partnership with Insomniac and PlayStation, right? Our Telltale Guardians of the Galaxy series, bringing back Marvel vs. Capcom, and now our Square Enix partnership with Crystal Dynamics, the Avengers game. And people, without us saying anything, immediately you're like, 4 corners made a square, and they're like, oh, we see what they're doing. They're serious, right? And this is a very historic E3. I feel like I'm rambling now, but this is a very historic E3 for us because we've been, with our partners, Insomniac, Capcom, Lego, Telltale, we've been working really, really hard to bring some awesome content to the fore and to have 3 big games at this conference, have our Telltale series going on, have 2 games in Sony's press conference, and have Spider-Man close out the show. What an honored spot. Like, it's incredible, right? But it's just the beginning.
Oh, that's
for
so
us,
exciting. Being
right?
in that room today when we saw the demo, there was an energy where it's just like, as it was happening, we just kept looking at each other being like, this is so cool.
Well, it's just you're nailing it. And you see the demo, whether it's in behind closed doors or what we saw at the conference, and it's like, right, that's what a Spider-Man game should look and feel like. Yeah. When you come in that first time and she's like, you got this? And he's like, yeah, I got this.
I got this.
And it's right into just pop, 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 and using new gadgets and doing all the stuff that we haven't done in a Spider-Man game before. It was like,
Right.
that's awesome.
This Spider-Man, he's been fighting crime for about 8 years. He's experienced. He's like an athlete at the top of his game. And like you're right, he'll have Yuri say, "Do you have this?" And he may say, "Oh yeah, I got this, I got this." But then in true Spider-Man fashion, a few minutes later,
don't got it.
"Do I got
Well,
this?
yeah,
Do I got
right
this?"
before he went to the helicopter, he's like,
this.
"Don't screw this up," right? You know?
Yeah. So we're really, yes, he's going to be experienced, but we're never forgetting the humor of Spider-Man, and that's part of the huge reason why we partner with Insomniac on it, because they really bring the humor, they bring the personality, and the humor that Spider-Man has. It's I'd say it's almost part of his powers. You know, he can stick to walls. He has the spider sense. He has the agility, he has the strength, and he uses his web sling. He builds web.
Don't forget webs.
Got his mind, and he also uses humor as a weapon when he's fighting a foe that may be more powerful than him, that's older than him. To get them off their game, he may use humor, but he always uses it with himself too, just as we do as we go through our daily lives, and we kind of have that voice in our head as we talk to ourselves. So hopefully you'll see that fun, fun and humor throughout it all.
You guys get it.
That's the thing, is like when I was watching the demo, like the parts we had seen of don't screw this up and all that, but there was in the behind closed doors demo a part where there was a steel beam that was on a chain,
right?
And you could have fought all the guys and not done it. Instead, you went that and did that and pulled it and hit them all, and everyone in the room laughed. It was like, oh, that's
there's humor in combat. I mean, if you look closely, and hopefully everybody will get a chance to go in the theater because they're playing it differently in there. They're trying different things, like that little web trap that he uses. You can actually use it between two guys, and they'll pop together. When you web them up with the impact webs, and when you in the demo that we showed at the press conference, he knocks them up and sticks them to a wall. You can swing them around, stick them. I stuck a guy to a parking meter one time, or to a car that was driving by, and so it gets really, really sort of dynamic and organic when you start getting in there messing with all your spider powers and your tech and your web abilities. But something that we haven't really shown much of, but we get asked a lot about, is that human side, that Peter Parker side. This game is very much going to show. I mean, Bill loves to talk about how the best Spider-Man stories are the ones where Peter's
and Spider-Man's worlds collide.
That's right.
And that's actually one of the reasons why Mr. Negative is such a great villain, because his philanthropist persona, Martin Lee, where Aunt May works at his feast shelters, and Mr. Negative as a supervillain foil to Spider-Man is just a perfect nexus of, we're going to bring Peter and Spider-Man's worlds together in a way you've never seen in a game, right?
The original Spider-Man creators were so smart. You know, before they made superhero comics, Stan Lee, Steve Ditko, John Romita Sr., they were working on like teen romance comics, right? So when they created the first Spider-Man comics, they didn't leave that behind. It was revolutionary in that it was a superhero story, and they brought that soap opera element to it, and you had that awesome supporting cast. And as Mike said, the best stories are where Peter's civilian lives that he's trying to protect are in danger because of his costume lives, and they're smashing together. So here, Peter, and every Spider-Man story is a Peter Parker story. He's always Peter, and he's always Spider-Man. And it's when these worlds collide, you have to make decisions like, wait, if Martin Lee is Mr. Negative, do I take him down? That's going to ruin Aunt May's life because she's finding meaning in her life.
Her life will be all right.
Or what if he...
Volunteering at the soup shelter isn't like everything.
It gives her meaning. It gives her purpose.
You can go with a library.
But more importantly, what if Martin Lee finds out who he is?
Yeah.
Then is she going to be in danger?
Yeah.
So you have this great escalation of drama that and worlds colliding that only, I think, come in a true Spider-Man story.
That story, I think, is one of the main reasons we're so excited about it. Thank you for bringing it by. 2018, correct?
2018.
Sure. You better hit 2018. I'm sick of waiting already.
It's like Spider-Man saying, don't mess us up, don't mess us up.
Don't screw this up.
Don't screw it up. Unanimously, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
One of our Kind of Funny approved games in the show. You need to go give this to Insomniac and take a photo with them, all right?
We'll do it.
Oh, shit.
We'll do it.
One of our, can we get a round of applause? One of our Kind of Funny approved. There you go.
There you go, guys.
Awesome. Thank you.
Congratulations, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Well, and we've been waiting a long time to do this. We've talked about getting on the show, and we've been hard at work on Spidey and Capcom and everything else. But thank you so much for
thank you guys.
You got to make it happen. You guys on the Gamescast.
On the big stage here.
All right.
I'll be done.
Thank you.
All right.
Now get off the stage.
Thank
Ladies
you. All right,
and
get out.
gentlemen,
Get
thank
out.
you for
Thank
watching.
you guys.
Thank you.
That was our first of many segments today. Marvel games. I can't wait for Spider-Man.
Oh my God, it looks too good.
Yeah,
it's unbelievable.
It definitely.
We're at E3 2017, and we are lucky enough to stand next to Brian here from Insomniac Games. You got the honor of going last at the Sony E3 press conference. Yeah. We got to start there. What was that like, getting that spotlight and getting to sort of have that honor?
It's as cool as you can imagine. It is an unbelievable honor. I mean,
makes you feel like a superhero, maybe?
It's making me feel like a superhero. I think, you look at the rest of the lineup that they had, whether it was Uncharted, Horizon, Days Gone, all the way down to Call of Duty, VR games, and to Sony put us in that spot was really an honor. And just we're hoping we can deliver the experience that people expect from this game.
So going into this project, what was your vision to sort of bring back Spider-Man to the video game realms? What do you want to create?
I think, a couple things. One is, we want to deliver on the story. I mean, I think you look at whether it's the comics, the cartoons, the movies, the TV shows, it all starts with the story, and you got to really connect. And for us, it starts with Peter. And really, as awesome as to be Spider-Man, for everybody to connect with him and deliver that human story, you got to deliver on Peter Parker. So really showing how Spider-Man's world and Peter Parker's worlds collide. That's a big thing for us on the story front. Then, obviously, it's just deliver on the fantasy of being Spider-Man, whether it's the improvisational nature of his combat, the expanded moveset when traversing and parkouring over objects, to lastly those big spectacle moments, those blockbuster moments that only Spider-Man can survive. Those are the three big things that that's whether it's the human story and being a Spider-Man, obviously, and then New York really making an awesome world that people want to explore and spend time in. That's what we really wanted to deliver on.
Yeah, I think that's what I got from that presentation as well. That sort of mix of sort of free movement and then sort of combat and then sort of set pieces that sort of happen dynamically.
Yeah, there's a reason why this is one of the missions we chose, because it kind of gave a good slice of all the different elements of the game. Whether he starts in the beginning and he's kind of doing his stealth action, to you saw more like traditional combat. He's in the throes of things, to a big epic chase through the city, to these more saving the crane, the helicopter, taking down the helicopter. These more cinematic moments kind of represents various portions of the game, and we definitely much more heavily on the traditional combat and the traversal, where we sprinkle in some of those more big time moments from when we feel like it's necessary in the story.
When it comes to the combat, I noticed there seems to be a lot of sort of options to sort of add in things from the side and things like that, which is sort of, it speaks to Spider-Man's character, I think, because he's not kind of guy who just beats people up with his fist.
That's a great observation. For us, he's not a bruiser. He's more of an acrobatic improviser. It's this idea where if he was in this room, he'd be ping-ponging around, and whether he's using stealth, whether he's using air combat, the environment, really looking at the environment, see what he can take advantage of, which hopefully you guys saw in the demo, to even his gadgets. You saw the impact web that kind of cocoons the guy, but also at the same time, this thing called the web tripwire, where he can place it not only in environment, but also on people. So if they walk by that area, they get slammed to the wall, where if I was to stick it to you and your camera guy, you guys would slam together. So we definitely want to have a lot of options when it comes to combat.
What that presentation did not show is sort of the more sort of openness of sort of traversing. What that side of the game bring?
I definitely can't talk a lot about the open world. We're kind of today was really focusing on combat, traversal, and this big moment in the game. But obviously, Spider-Man, you want to swing around the world, right? We want to take advantage of that. We're building a great New York City. Our environment team, our designers, everybody is really supporting that. It will obviously be a big focus for us in the months to come as we show more of the game.
In terms of sort of because it's Spider-Man, we have so many different universes to pull from. What are you inspired by? And sort of, obviously you had a big tease there towards the end of the press conference. How do you sort of, is this something you created uniquely for this video game, or what do you pull?
So I think one thing was, we just didn't want to do a movie tie-in. We didn't want to tie it to a movie coming out. We didn't want to also just tell the same story that someone might have read in the comics, because those are great stories, but people have experienced those stories before. So our philosophy is we want to create a unique Spider-Man universe, and it's something that our kind of philosophy has been respect the traditions of the franchise, the DNA of the character, but also mix things up. And you see the addition of Mr. Negative. He's something people don't expect. You saw Miles at the end. It's something people don't expect. But at the same time, though, we're gonna have those classic moments like seeing a Wilson Fisk, and just his. I think also if you look down, just look at his suit. He's got the traditional mask. He's got the red and blue, but that's you know that's Spider-Man, right? But he's got this big white spider. Why is it white? Why is it so big? That kind of tells you it's Spider-Man. It's recognizable, but there's something different about it, and that's kind of what we want to do. And I think that's our philosophy. Whether it's the gameplay, the story, the whole universe we're creating.
I also love the fact that you got sort of Spider-Man going Fisk's errands. Sort of that's a really nice twist to the narrative.
There's a line where I've heard it like 100,000 times. Is saving bad guys from other bad guys. It's kind of like we want to have fun. And Insomniac. At the end of the day, he's a fun character. That's in our DNA of Insomniac, is making fun games and taking advantage of his humor, and really that's honestly one of the hardest things, is get his humor right. He's such a challenging character from a writing standpoint, and our writers have just done a fantastic job. And I hear that please don't screw this up line hundreds of times, and I still laugh at it. So at least for me, it's delivering. So I'm really happy with the way the guys are going with it.
All right. I've got to ask you about the tech, because it came out when we saw Spider-Man last year. We were blown away by it, and it really looks amazing in action. What's gone into sort of the tech work here in the background?
I think it's just, it's continued refinement, continue to add new features. Our first open world game was Sunset Overdrive, and that gave us a great foundation to build upon. And between our tech team and then just our artists, our animators, our riggers, character lighters, everything you can think of. I have the easy job. I get up and talk about it, whereas those guys, they're killing it. And I think it's funny, I was watching a bunch of the streams last few days, and I saw the old trailer, and I was looking, and I was like, it looks good, man. Wow, it looks a lot better. And just from the lighting, the details, everything across the board looks better. And I hope that just continues as we go forward. And I think it's definitely it's technically beautiful. He even moves faster than what we're showing in the demo. And from him to have that city that detailed, and for him to move that fast, is definitely a technical achievement that gamers are definitely going to benefit from.
In terms of the development, where do you feel you're at, and sort of when are we starting to get to that point?
I won't feel good until they take the disc out of my cold, dead hands and take it to press. It's just, development. It's ups and downs, goods and bads, and we're going to continue to iterate as forever till they tell us to stop. And we know we have to get it right. I hope the last year's trailer said, hey, we're on the right start. This is another step forward. And every single time we show you guys the game, we just want to keep delivering on that promise of this is going to be a Spider-Man experience that hopefully you guys will always remember.
Yeah. It's that thin line of walking where we're happy to wait until you're done, but at the same time, don't take too long.
I know that when the date shows up, you're like, and it's like, I just want to get it right. And there's so many games, I think Nintendo takes that philosophy. They, those guys are pretty smart. Let's just get it right. And, we'll feel good about 2018 and get it out and let people enjoy it, because we really just scratched the surface in this. We showed you 90 seconds last year, showing you about 10 minutes today. There's a lot more game, and there's a lot more to story. There's a lot more fun gameplay that we haven't revealed yet. And it's a dream project for Insomniac, and especially for me, it's just it's been a dream come true. And I know people say that a lot, but it's just been, I'm thrilled to be working on this project and represent Insomniac here and be able to talk about it.
All right, cool. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Appreciate it. Thanks so much.
Hey guys, welcome back to PlayStation Live from E3. As promised, got another great roundtable for you. We wanted to talk a little bit about what it's like to take an iconic character that gamers know and love and reintroduce that character into a modern setting or style. So we've got some great folks here. We've got Corey Barlog from Santa Monica Studio, working on God of War. We're all dying to know more about that one.
So am I.
We've got Kurt and Sean here from Naughty Dog. You guys are working on Uncharted: The Lost Legacy. And Chloe, obviously a fan favorite character. You guys are kind of giving her the spotlight here on this new title, along with Nadine from Uncharted 4. So very excited to learn a little bit more about your approach to that.
Okay, it's awesome.
And then we've got Brian here as well from Ensom. You guys are working on Spider-Man. No
Yeah,
surprises.
I don't know who Spider-Man is. I don't know who
Spider-Man,
that is.
yeah.
A little
And
known property.
A little known property.
Yeah.
Very underground.
He's a
kind
real
of comic
upstart.
So what it, you know, slightly different interpretation from you guys. I mean, you guys are doing your own Spider-Man universe.
Yeah.
This is an older, more experienced, more
Yeah.
powerful Spider-Man.
Yeah.
We haven't seen anything quite like that before, so we want to talk about that and find the connective threads between all of you guys from a creative side.
Cool. Well, I mean, I can start. I mean, he is a pretty iconic character, right? And we heard right away that no one wants to see him get bit by a spider again. You know, the origin story's been done. It's been done. I heard two things. No origin story, and make sure those webs attach to buildings. Those are my two number one things, and it was easy after that. But I think, you know, something I've said is that he's such an iconic character, right? And the best thing about this game is that everybody knows Spider-Man. And one of the hardest things about it is that everybody knows Spider-Man. So even whether it's fans, whether it's internally, we have these big debates about, well, here's what I expect from Spider-Man. So we just kind of boiled down to respect the character, respect the DNA of the character, but also don't be afraid to mix things up. And Marvel's embraced it. And I mean, I think if you look at the suit, that kind of example of like, it's red and blue, it's got the classic mask, but that big white spider is something very different. And then we just wanted to tell a new tale for him and not just redo what everybody else has already done.
And I think that's a great strategy. And Corey, I find this fascinating with you too. I see an immediate parallel with Kratos in the new God of War. You obviously no stranger to the God of War series. You worked on the first one. You were creative director on the second one, or game director on the second one.
Yeah.
And Kratos, traditionally angry, you know, like vengeance.
Right.
And that was very bold and fresh, you know, it was very, very original at the time. And I'm kind of curious, like, your strategy for when you decided you wanted to do a new God of War game. Like, what was the approach?
I think when I got back, I kind of took stock and looked around. The team had grown up a lot. I had grown up a lot. We're at different phases of our lives. You know, the studio was at a different sort of crossroads, man. We had some stuff going on. And I think it's like looking back at your sort of high school years, your college years, and kind of going like, cool, I'm very different right now. And I look at things very differently. And I really want to take what I'm doing. The thing I told Shannon, I want to have something that means, I want to make something that means something, right? Something that has heart. I want to be able to look my kid in the eye and be proud of what I've done, right? And I'm not ashamed of any of the things I've done before. I wouldn't go back and change any of that stuff. But I see the world so differently right now. And I think for me, it gives an opportunity to actually have the first games be chapter 1 of a character's sort of backstory. So it's this amazing opportunity that most times when you're creating something, you sort of have to cram the backstory in. You kind of have to, oh, this is what happened to them before. But to have, you know, like 10, 15 years of backstory being told, and then say, and here is where their struggle is now, right? And going forward and kind of, you're not changing the character. A lot of people say, oh, you're changing it. That's not my God of War. But really, it absolutely is. It's just, they're older, right? It's like saying in high school, you were very different, right? It's not like you're not you now. You're different. You've changed throughout your life. You see things differently. So I think what we do reflects who we are. And we put so much of ourselves in these things. We work on it for 5 years, man. Yeah. So it's just gotta mean something more.
Yeah, I mean, kind of coincidentally, I realized, like, I've been talking about the game recently, and I say Peter's 23, he just graduated college, he's starting his career, trying to figure things out. That's when I graduated college, was 23. Like, it's almost parallel of like, did I just coincidentally put him at 23? And like, I was thinking, like, that was a big turn for me, because I was a psychology major, and I was gonna become a psychologist. I'd got into grad school, and I actually took a year off to start writing about games, and then I was at this, like, what do I want to do? And they just juggling, is this going to be my career? And do I want to go do this other thing? And I think you, like Corey said, you kind of bring something of yourself to these games.
Yeah, I think that's part of the process. The creative process is getting deeper underneath the surface and bringing that out in your work. I don't think it's conscious necessarily. It's subconscious. It just comes out in the writing. It comes out in the choices we make, right? Especially for Chloe, it was revisiting an old character, but we really hadn't seen much of her either, or we only knew her on a very superficial level. And in the studio, just the process of creative process is it's such a struggle.
Did it start
as a
with her?
whole, right?
Did that idea begin with her? Were you guys like, look, I really want to get into Chloe and Nadine?
Absolutely.
Well, I mean, we went in all different directions. We had like Sully and Sam and Cassie we looked at every single character that we had, and like the one we kept coming back to was Chloe because she just puts a smile on your face to think about, and she has that fun, Uncharted quirkiness about her, and like there's a reason she's a fan favorite, and we wanted to like team her up with someone that would like nicely contrast and conflict with her personality, and we had this great character Nadine from Uncharted 4, and they both have this self-serving self-preservation
That's really
in
what
common.
they were,
And
survivors.
And obviously the way they approach things is very different. Like Chloe is a very improvisational, think on her feet, and Nadine is more of she's a military leader, so she's got this very logical approach to things. So when we throw them into a situation when shit's blowing up and or they're approaching a combat scenario, and just the interplay between them coming out in gameplay.
Great dynamic.
Yeah.
From what I've seen thus far,
it's a struggle.
Awesome.
Yeah, that was the core of it. We wanted to make sure you had characters that would have a good dynamic, because that's such the heart of what Uncharted is.
Were the actors
characters
playing each of those?
This was Claudia Back and Laura Bailey.
Nice.
So it was, even
very
their
talented
energies-
people.
Yeah, and their energies were so, like inspiring when you see them come in on the stage.
Well, that's the thing.
like
I
they bring
can't.
it.
I can't talk about who plays Spider-Man yet because they don't let us talk about it yet.
Oh, let's just say it.
Yeah, no. but
I'm Spider-Man.
Let's
one of
just
the
use this time to make.
yeah, one of the things we looked for is like someone who is just interested in the character. Like our voice actor, like sat down with us and the writers and just wanted to know the whole story. Like even before, like it wasn't like, oh, I'm coming in for the day and I'm just gonna worry about this one scene. He wanted, and then he's like, well, here are my notes, and I'm like, I'd never really had a voice actor give me notes on the story, and I was just like, well, I mean, you're playing them, so all right, let's do it. And that's when I actually really felt like we had cast him already, but then I felt really good about the casting. So I'm like, he's gonna make it.
Yeah,
he's gonna
bring his own life in that character.
But
I got notes from a 9-year-old kid. Who's like, "Are you sure you want to do that?" Is that how you
I got notes from a 9-year-old kid who's seen the demo 3 times. He was sitting in the crowd, right? But you guys ever? For me, sometimes when we're like writing lines and stuff like that, do you ever? Sometimes you hear the character say something that you would say like. There's a line when we were working on the demo where Spider-Man's the helicopter's going down and he says, "Please don't screw this up." And I was like, "Oh, that's how I feel like every day, every day working on this game. Like sometimes you bring
it's therapy,
your own voice.
Right? It's therapy.
Oh my God,
You're literally writing yourself your thoughts in this thing, and then it's like, wait a minute, is that me?
I can tell.
Would Peter really say this? I hope so.
Yeah. Between Sean and Josh co-writing, like I can tell. Just from their own personalities infused in the writing when I'm playing, I'm like, oh, that's a Josh line. That's a Josh line.
Yeah.
I'm shameless, man. I just put everything from my own life in
there. But I think you have to. You have to draw from your own experiences. It's part of the process.
That's how you get that truth.
Yeah,
I think really, we're all really searching for that single moment of real sort of truth
An
from
honest
the performer,
moment,
from the script, and I think for me, I'm just like, oh look, I had that moment. Like there's a point where the kid is talking to somebody, and basically he's talking about living alone, and then it's like, my dad doesn't like people either, and it's like, to me, that line sort of personifies me. I'm like the most outgoing introvert in the world. Like when I'm not doing this stuff, I want to be like in the hotel room just watching like old TV shows.
Yeah, I know. I have that same. It's funny. It's the same thing. I'm social when I have to be, and then it's all of a sudden I'm like,
it drives my wife insane. She's like, you're so outgoing when you do these things, and then you're like trying to get you out of the house to do anything is like the most big.
Oh my God, are you guys all like that?
Yes.
That is
my girlfriend.
You're not alone. You're
Honey,
not alone.
See, this is normal.
I'm like she's like, this week's pretty crazy, right? And she's like, well, I got Saturday night planned and Sunday, and I'm like,
really?
I'm like, you do realize all Saturday I'm either working or I'm just gonna be like, not. I
just don't want to see.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah.
I think it's.
I believe we're all in trouble when we.
Oh yeah.
Does not help our case at all.
At all. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
So I do have a question for you guys. It's fascinating stuff there. I like getting deeper into that creative.
Yeah, our wives are really going to.
Interesting. All the inspiration, all the motivation. But here's a question I got. Each one of you folks must have gone through a process of deconstruction with your respective characters. I mean, we haven't seen Chloe was introduced, I mean, almost a decade ago, like 8 years ago in Uncharted 2.
Yeah.
And I like to think she's a little more multi-layered at this point. So you must have thought long and hard about how do we, if we're going to reintroduce her, what does that mean now? Definitely with Kratos, definitely with Spider-Man. So tell me about all that. Why don't we start with you guys?
Well, okay, so Chloe, you know, when we've seen her before, she was always this self-preservationist, always like a sidekick character. When the going got too tough, she bailed out, you know, and it was the questions that at least inspired us to start, you know, journeying down this path was, you know, what if Chloe had her own job, right?
Yeah.
What if she was the showrunner? What if she wasn't the sidekick? Could she persevere? Could she get there? Why is she a self-preservationist? And that's one of the reasons we went back to India, because she's half Indian. We wanted to dig deeper and see, well, what happened in Chloe's life that made her this character that we know today? And then that also just started opening up all these different like layers of this character that you haven't seen yet, and hoping to show you on this game.
We like that she, you know, in Uncharted 2, it's her allegiances are questionable, and to have your playable character be that kind of person was super interesting. And Nadine has that same kind of thing. So yeah.
Nadine was an enemy, right? She was a villain of the last game. And now she's, you know, suffered the losses of the Drake brothers and the decline of Shoreline. What is she going to do now? Now forced with this thief, you know, this hustler, this wheeling, dealing hustler. How is she going to survive? How are they going to navigate themselves?
Yeah. And everyone in the Uncharted universe all kind of knows each other. There's always like a history. And
all thieving world.
Obviously, both of those characters have different histories with Drake and the Drake brothers. There's just like then Asav, the villain, and so that fun dynamic of everyone has a little bit of history with everyone else, and how that comes out and causes conflict is part of the fun of it.
Yeah. You're up next, buddy.
Seriously?
Yeah. All right. You could go.
First thing to say, if you guys could try a little less hard, because it is fucking exhausting keeping up with what you guys are doing.
If I hear the word Naughty Dog one more time.
Right. Seriously. Every time I see both of your stuff, I'm blown away. So like when we were thinking about this, for me, I wanted to tear everything up and kind of put all the pieces on the floor and really understand where we were at. I think the root idea really did come from this, like, I think Kratos is intrinsically God of War, right? I think he is connected to it. And God of War could totally work without Kratos, but it's an interesting writing challenge to take somebody that has gone so far to the dark side, so far to the point where people just fucking hate this guy, man, and kind of bring him back. The 100, this character Bellamy, right? First season, you hate this guy, right? They just bad, but they actually kind of bring him back. They bring him to a point of you actually care about him. Wilson Fisk in Daredevil season 1. Oh, come on.
Yep.
Who would believe that they care about Kingpin kind of being a jilted lover? Like, come on, man. That's amazing.
That's awesome. Yeah.
That is like the exciting frontiers of character development and writing that I was just like, I have to see what we can do with this guy. I want to see why would he change? What is the road that he's going on to try to change? And so that fascinating kind of Pixar rule of storytelling, the idea of the hero you're going to root for is not the hero who succeeds, but the hero who fails over and over and over and over again, but gets up every single time.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like that lesson we want in life.
Yeah.
I gotta say, the God of War trailer kind of blew me away.
Oh, really?
It was,
awesome. Thank you.
and it's that, like you're saying, like it totally shows in everything you described, the growing up of it, the more mature, like seeing just the concept. Because to me, God of War was always, you know, murder everything. Literally, the gods of the world, you're
Nothing's
murdering
fair.
them.
Even the pups.
And just the concept, and this trailer shows it of like, not everyone's bad. Maybe you can have friends. And it's like, yeah, that would be awesome to see Kratos like come to terms with that, and like having a son teach him that, and
How
like
does that manifest? How does he learn to trust?
I remember, I'm a huge God of War fan, and like one of the few things I liked studying in college was Greek mythology. I relived, I was embraced the new setting, but for me was, as you know, being a musician, to have the guts to see last year's, whereas now it's a new setting, he has a son, all the the gameplay being tweaked.
the gameplay thing is a whole nother. That's
on your
insane.
campus one time, and I said the amount of guts to do that and go not just put your foot,
All the way down.
jump all the way in. That's awesome to see from a creative director standpoint. Is really just go all the way in on something like that.
Stupidity and
It's brave. It's brave. No, we call it
we
brave.
played live to an orchestra.
That was crazy.
And a 10-minute demo. Like
I was watching the orchestra. I'm like, wait, they're playing with the gameplay?
Yeah. Yeah, that was just dumb in retrospect. But awesome. Greatest experience ever sitting up there.
Yeah.
I'll never have something like that in my life again.
I mean, and I think a little different from these guys. It's like this character has had an amazing amount of stories over the years, and whether it's in comics, cartoons, and now movies. And after the 24 hours of being a fanboy and saying, well, I want this character to do this and this character that, you try to break it down to say, well, what is the DNA of the character, and why do people love this character so much? And I was looking at a lot of, obviously, the Marvel movies are so big right now, right? And I said, well, why? Like, I've two people in my life I always talk about. I have my really good friend, Joe. Joe is the biggest Spider-Man fan I've ever met in my life. And then I have my sister and my sister-in-law. They really don't know the comics really well, but man, they're there day one. And I said, well, I know I can get Joe. If I put the suit out there, he'll like play Joe. But what would they be interested in? He says, well, they like the human story. When they're not in the suits and doing all the crazy thing, so how do we get that human story in there? And I said, okay, from there, what's the next thing? Well, what makes Peter so interesting to most people? It's like, well, he's not a god. He's not, rich guy like Tony Stark. He's vulnerable. He's relatable. How can we take all the awesome Spider-Man action but still deliver that relatable, vulnerable guy that grew up in Queens and now is doing this? And that's where we kind of.
So you're gonna play as Peter Parker outside the suit?
He's
All right, I don't know.
Exclusive.
I like that these guys are giving me tougher questions than I got.
I heard you on the IGN thing talking about that, about how it's as important to the story.
Yeah, I think it's. I told people right away, like, we have to really do just as good a job with Peter as we do with Spider-Man. And it's two different challenges, and each one have their obstacles, right? But we have to nail that, otherwise.
Yeah.
It's got to break through like some of the movies, like you said, Daredevil, right? Like, why you actually identify with Wilson Fisk?
Right?
Like to me, sometimes the hardest thing is like writing the villain, because it's easy to make the mustache twirling villain, right? But if it's like you can create a villain that you somehow understand, and to me, that's why I've always everybody loves Vader, because there's something about Vader you kind of like, right?
Yeah.
And then it was more with Vincent D'Onofrio did the Fisk and the Daredevil series. How can we do it? So we probably spent more time on villains early on than we did with Peter, because we kind of felt like we had a good hand on him right away, but the villains were really, really hard.
So you what I saw there was like this unbelievably sort of on point representation of like my entire childhood imagination of Spider-Man. The helicopter
bouncing on the web,
on the web between the skyscraper, the little pull the guy up and roll him up, like every single moment in there was just like, yep, check, yep, check, I'm in.
Yeah. I think that's awesome. Thank you. I think the thing is that's when you rely on the team who, you have an animator. Like, that was the designer's idea to have the crane fall, and I'm like, well, he had the idea, so let's just
Right.
Yeah, that sounds great.
You're digging your own hole.
I'm like, yeah, let's go. And then you have an animator who's like, I'm into it, and they start working on it, and they just kind of sit back and let the team, and
they're inspired.
Yeah, and that's the whole thing. For me, it's just about embracing that enthusiasm and let them go. And these demos are not easy. You guys all know these demos are not easy to create, right?
Yeah.
And but when you have a team that's just you're coming the next day and you're like, well, we tried something else, and and I'm thinking to myself, oh God, what'd you do?
Yeah.
And then I'm like,
and it's amazing.
That's awesome.
Right?
Great job.
They're inspired.
Keep going. I'll see you next week.
Yeah, I mean, we get that all the time. We know we're like, okay, we're gonna pick this part for E3, and then we start, everyone starts looking at it, and we start playing through it, and we look at it, every day, every other day.
Yeah.
And we'll have people like, so what about this part where it's like kind of boring? Like, we could make it like the whole thing collapse and all this stuff, and like, oh yeah, all right. If you're down, then that would make it better.
With the helicopter save, I was like, so I kind of want the helicopter to fall. I'm not sure how he takes care of it, and they're like, and they just went off, and a bunch of guys figured it out, and I was like, it's even better. Like, and then I'm like, well, can we make the first-person web shooting feel realistic? And I was like, and they just.
I love that touch, by the way. That was such a great moment.
The team they're rock stars.
Yeah,
I just get to talk about everything they do.
Yeah, they're amazing. Our team, they bring so much new stuff. They're our harshest critics, by the way.
Oh my God,
they're the ones who
I feel like if you get past the team, it's easy, man. Like something you do like internal play test, you're like.
No. The hardest thing is pitching in front of the team.
Yeah.
Trust me.
Yeah.
Like, these guys are brutal.
Yeah.
Ask Kurt, he'll tell you. They'll rip you to shreds, and you're like, oh, all right. Yeah, maybe we should do that.
Yeah.
It literally is like that everywhere. It's so fantastic.
Yeah.
I always think, oh, this has got to just be us, but no, everywhere you go.
Yeah.
Well, it is tough.
I like this very interesting conversation. I'm just sort of listening in here and learning a lot. But I like this idea of like, you've got these iconic characters, mythological characters almost, right? And then having to sort of, in your case, align with, Marvel. Ultimately, this big machine that's a tremendous cultural force.
Yeah.
And in the case of you, it's expectations from fans who've played these other God of War games, and you're trying to figure out, I want to do something new and different and artistic, but I need to honor them as well in a way, right? And the same with Chloe. So I think that's a really interesting topic. Like, how do you manage that, Corey?
It is a delicate balance. I mean, it really is inviting the fan in and really trying to sell them as hard as the team. I think the team is the training ground for being able to understand how to sell it to the fans to say, look, I'm going to try something crazy, right? But trust me, because I have the right people here. I think that we've all echoed it. You can see, like, none of us would be anywhere without having the teams that we have. Like,
absolutely.
they are the blood that sort of pumps through the veins of these games, right? They animate these things to life. And without them, man, we would be nothing. So being able to get them on board gets us really close. And they're the fans that really is kind of paying attention, knowing what to do that stays true to what you're doing, right? To your vision. So I think that is a hard thing because sometimes you are going against conventional wisdom. There are a lot of times during the duration of these projects where you're making a decision that everyone is against you, right? Eventually they will get on board, but in the beginning, perhaps it's a clumsy way you presented it, or it literally is fucking nuts what you're asking them to do. They will get there, but it takes that perseverance of pushing and convincing and begging and bribing and pleading and supplicating. So it's all of it.
I'll jump in real quick with a personal example for me. So Logan, I'd never read the comics. I like the X-Men movies pretty well. This Logan movie was coming up, and I went, what is this? Like, what are these guys doing? And, I mean, yeah, that's cool. I mean, like a hard R. Well, I get it. Yeah, sure. And I sat down to watch it, and I kind of had this sour feeling about it. Like, and he's drinking whiskey and all this. I'm like, boy, this is a little over the top, I mean, they're really trying to sell this R rating. But then I realized, and it was the small moments in that movie, too. And I realized, okay, we all need to be reminded that sometimes you have these great characters or these universes that we love. Change can be great, right?
Oh, that frontier of comic books allows creatives to take such incredibly crazy flying leaps, right? Even in a run like Why the Last Man, where you have some of those issues that are just absolutely bonkers, right? But then taking well-known characters like Hawkeye, right? Like that, is it Matt Fraction did that crazy Hawkeye series, so good, right? And then Old Man Logan, kind of exploring a different side. And I think games are more expensive, they got bigger teams, so it's a little bit harder to kind of move people towards the risks. But I think look, these people up here, they're the pioneers that are showing that this is possible, that we should take the risk because the audiences actually will roll with us, even if they do have that initial reaction of like, hey, what is this crap?
There's a Spider-Man with a big white spider behind me right now, and when we showed that last year, people went ballistic. How dare you? It's not a black little spider.
Not my Spider-Man.
That's not my Spider-Man. And I'm like, it's going to be your Spider-Man. Just give us time. Give us, it wasn't just for shock value. It was like, it ties into the story. We try to do everything tied in the story. Just give us I can't talk about it right now. It's tied to something big. Just relax. Like,
it's falling gracefully.
And
it's like
the other thing is, like, we talk to Marvel a lot. Like, we wouldn't have made that kind of decision without talking them through. And like you asked me about what's it like to work with Marvel, it's been great. I mean, they are very open to trying different things. And, you know, we'd be foolish not to lean on them. You know, my very first phone call with Marvel was with Bill Roseman, their creative director.
He's a great guy.
Great. And he's more excited than all of us probably combined to talk about this kind of stuff. And he said to me something that stuck with me since day one. He says, Brian, at the end of the day, the best stories are when Peter's world and Spider-Man worlds collide. If you think about that, everything's gonna be great. And you just take those nuggets and you just kind of, even though you're changing, like everybody says, oh, well, it's not an origin story, but yeah, there are elements of that origin story that have to be part of every Spider-Man story that you tell. And that's the kind of things you try to bring to the experience, whereas like, there's certain things about all these franchises that we want to retain, but how we express it may be different.
You don't want to do the same thing over and over.
No, and it's like
over.
everybody's like, well, are you gonna do the superior, you know, this line, or is it gonna be based on the Ultimate Spider? I'm like, you've read that already.
Yeah.
You've already experienced it. We want to give you
change
something
is uncomfortable.
different.
It's
We want to give you the next one of those.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And out of that uncomfortableness comes something great.
Yep.
Yes.
Something new is born.
Yeah.
And that's
And
that's
it's as
the
scary
process.
as I am. We're going to do something like, oh, well, I could have
it's
just done
scary.
this. It would be okay. But, like, I want to surprise people.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like with you guys too. I mean, you know, we're going to do a new entry in the Uncharted series. Let's just go back to the well with Drake. I mean, I'm sure we could figure out some way to get him in there.
Yeah.
But you didn't. You know, you took a creative leap, and I think that's what makes this art, right? I mean, that's what it's about.
Yeah, I mean, in the end, it was like with Uncharted 4, when we ended that, the only way that ending is meaningful is if you don't do Drake again.
Yeah.
So, like, we knew we weren't going to touch that. That was like the one hard and fast rule. So, like, yeah, we have all these great characters. Let's pick some, put them together, and like make this awesome story. And there's still people that ask us like, how are you gonna? But Uncharted is Drake, and Drake, like, but how is it? They just like can't comprehend an Uncharted game without Drake. But you know, I think there's certain trust you have with anything, and like even if there's negative reaction initially, just if there's trust in yourself and your team and the execution is good and the game comes out, and like really it's when the game comes out that
I remember when we showed the White Spider, it was just like mass hysteria, everyone freaking out, and I said, I don't care if this game is the worst thing, we're never changing that suit.
Yeah.
We're never changing that suit.
That's good.
That's
the
ship
suit.
it. When we ship it, that's the suit.
Yeah.
Just no matter what, stick to our guns. We gotta stick to our guns, no matter what. And they're gonna learn to love it. They will. I guarantee.
This is actually a cycle that happens throughout all entertainment, really. Like when every James Bond is transferred over to the new James Bond, right? Daniel Craig. Who is this guy?
Yep.
He's not
blonde.
James Bond. What are you
Not the real
talking
thing.
about?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
He's not it. And then he comes in and everybody loves
he kills
him.
it.
And he kills it with Casino Royale. You're like, that's amazing, right? George Miller was making Fury Road, and Mel was originally part of it before they had to cancel because of the war. And then he recast, and everyone's like, what are you doing? Mel's the only one. And it's just like, you got to make it through. It's like the only way out is through this, man.
Yep.
As the creative, you just got to take the hits, and when it comes out, if it's good, which, come on, please. Seriously. Then I think that people will be ready.
Yeah.
You know, people will embrace.
That's great. Well, looking forward to all your titles. I mean, this is exciting stuff. I guess maybe a final topic we could discuss is what has been the biggest challenge for you? As we'll start with you, Corey, in kind of recasting Kratos. I mean, not recasting him, but taking him to a different place than we've seen him. What's been the toughest thing that you've had to really chew on to figure out?
You know, there is so much history, so much life with this character. Kind of looking at it and kind of seeing, look, this is a character at a different time in his life. A character who has changed so dramatically. So when trying to stay true to who he is, but also give him the breathing room to change. I mean, we had, in the early portions of the game, we were finding what he sounds like, right? What does Kratos sound like as a dad? And we failed so much, man. Like talk about the team being a harsh critic. People were giving notes like, this game is so hard to play. It's like playing a child abuse simulator. I hate Kratos. He's terrible. And we're like, all right, cool. So that was too far this way. And then we do another round, and they'd be like, oh, man, he sounds like Ben Kenobi now. It's ridiculous. This is not Kratos. We're like, cool, now we found this way. So finding that middle road where you're like, all right, this is the perfect amount that keeps him sort of in the pocket of what we want to do, but sort of stays true, I think, to who he is.
That's great. What do you think, Brian?
Oh, it's the humor.
The humor.
The humor. It's, I mean, talk about the extremes. Like, everybody's like, it's got to be everything he says has to be funny, and like, so you go, all right, well, every like when he's fighting, he has to say something, and you're like, yeah, it's kind of fun for like 15 minutes, and you realize like it's not like a movie where it's 2 hours, it's multiple hours, and it's like, if he says this line.
How many hours is that?
Huh?
Nothing.
Exactly. Like, see, I tell you, they're the toughest. They can be journalists. I think it's fun. The humor was so hard, and then we kind of landed on like, you know what? Quipser, we'll do that once in a while, but let's lean on like that specific situation and have him comment on that, so it can feel original, it can feel unique, and that's what we just went back and forth. And I mean, I still to this day have people, they'll email me saying, can we remove this line forever from the game? And just because after it gets repetitive, just finding that sweet spot for his humor. And he is a little bit older, but his humor should evolve with his age a little bit, but still retain that he has fun. He has fun while he's doing it, and he actually uses it as kind of a way to when it's getting too stressful to him, he can use that kind of, keep going on. That's been the humor for sure.
And what about you fine Naughty Dogs over there? What's the biggest obstacle you faced in with the Chloe and Nadine?
It's Chloe's voice and how it affects this Uncharted game. That world, how she plays in it, how she changes it, right? So it's finding that voice, that medium of humor and depth, and that speaks to our character, that speaks to Chloe Fraser. Yeah. So
she's traditionally she's been kind of a comic relief or kind of a fun foil for Drake, and now to develop her fully and have her own history and backstory.
Staying true to the world and
what is something that she can care about.
That's still our challenge, keeping that balance, running that line.
Yeah, it never ends, does it?
No, never.
Literally, like right as the disc is going out.
Wait, one more thing.
So many tweaks, and
day one patch.
All it takes is like one VO line times in a
That's
sequence.
totally not her.
And you're like,
Like
read
in
the
this
wrong
demo,
way.
there was this one line that I had the guys remove back and forth, and you can see Spider-Man's face, and so the animator have to
tweak it.
And at one point, I actually had the producer comes over and goes, "You're the one telling him that we're going to put it back in the game at this point." So I walk over there, I go, "Ian, can you please put that back in there?" And he's like, "It's easy. I got it." But I mean, I mean, even moving like, there's one he says after he has a conversation with the police captain, we just wanted to move it like 2 more seconds later, so I knew that the crash wouldn't be too loud. You could hear him because he's kind of whispering it to himself. It's, oh gosh, it's so hard.
Have the audio guys fix it. They'll just mix it down and they'll do.
Oh my God, yes, the mix, of course. Oh, it's all great. This is really hard, by the way.
Complicated stuff
for you guys. Going through the audio mix of this stuff. How is that for you guys? What do you?
It's a challenge, right? You get in there and then you have the pro audio mixers like, well,
Phil,
this is great.
Shout outs to Phil Kovacs.
He's awesome.
We have a lot of explosions and a lot of
it's
collapsing.
I know that dude. He worked with us. Yeah, that's awesome.
All right, guys. Fascinating discussion.
Sure.
We can do this the rest of the day. We can just keep that. Please do.
I can talk about audio mixing for like 30 minutes. Yeah.
Good stuff. It's good stuff. I really value all you guys coming on here and sharing all these insights. Really fascinating stuff. So thank you. We look forward to all of your new games coming up.
Thank you.
Starting with Uncharted: The Lost Legacy.
Yeah,
August 22nd.
August 22nd.
All right. Thanks for tuning in. Coming up next, you voted, and we are going to show you Nidhogg 2. Nidhogg 2 was the winner, so stay tuned.
Hello and welcome back to IGN Live at E3 2017. My name is Marty Sleva, and I am so freaking excited. Brian Intihar, creative director.
Thanks for having me.
Spider-Man. It's here.
I can't believe when you say that, like creative director of Spider-Man and just Insomniac working Spider-Man, it's pretty special.
How surreal is that?
To close the Sony press conference, to the reaction, seeing the booth, seeing like a actual helicopter being suspended by webs with Spider-Man on top of it.
Yeah.
It's been, we haven't talked about the game for a long
let's
time.
talk, okay.
Yeah, so it was like, people were like, "Are you tired of doing interviews?" I'm like, actually, no, because it's kind of like therapeutic. I can finally get it off my chest. All the cool things I've been working on.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it was one of the highlights last year. Was all of a sudden out of left field as we get these keys for the game. Insomniac's working on it. We go radio silent for a year.
Yeah.
We're getting to the end of the conference.
People were really happy on Twitter about that.
Yeah.
They were really thrilled about
but
that.
We're getting to the end of the conference, and I'm like, if they don't show Spider-Man, what are we going to do? And then all of a sudden we see this, and we finally see what the game is. So,
I think that was a cool thing when people saw the HUD pop on for the first time. It was like, so this is actually an mission relatively early in the game. Spider-Man's already taken down Wilson Fisk, a.k.a. the Kingpin. But a new threat has emerged in the city, the Inner Demons, and this is kind of one of their stops along the way that they're kind of going after different territories. And Spider-Man obviously arrives on the scene like a good superhero would, and he's starting to take down the demons while a little bit later, we get a phone call from Wilson Fisk saying, "Please save my guys," and then superhero stuff happens.
Sure. As one is want to do.
Yeah.
So is this sort of indicative of what combat encounters are going to be like
in
terms of interactivity?
I think, I think it's this demo gives a good example of like what we're looking for in terms of our core combat, this idea of him being like that acrobatic improviser. He's going to be combining, melee, whether it's on the ground, up in the air. So you saw some stealth in the very beginning. Webs, environment action, which you're going to see a lot throughout this video, as well as his gadgets. Like, Pete's a smart guy. He develops his own tech.
Yeah.
Those are mechanical web shooters.
Yeah.
We're not doing the organic thing. So, we want to kind of give you a lot of player choice to take these situations down. Like, we're actually playing this demo behind closed doors and at the theater, and everybody at Insomniac's playing it is changing up their play style as they play.
I love that. Yeah, Insomniac, as a developer, is always, to me, when I think of them, and especially Ratchet & Clank and Sunset Overdrive, I think of, weapon variety, gadgets, and I also think of a sense of mobility and locomotion.
That's great you say that. So like if you look at, in the very beginning of the demo, he places this object on the wall, the web tripwire, and the idea is that anybody who walks in that path of that little blue line will basically, a web will come out and grab him. But the thing is, the cool thing is there's multiple ways to use it. You can actually attach it to an enemy, and if another enemy walks by, they'll web slam into each other. You can stick one to a wall, and you can kick the guy up in the air, and it'll grab them. So we definitely want, the classic Insomniac way, fun weapons and gadgets. But at the same time, when it comes to traversal, a sense of flow, fluidity, and style that we had with Sunset Overdrive and bringing that to a Spider-Man experience.
Yeah, I mean, as soon as you guys were announced as the developers, I immediately thought of playing Sunset Overdrive, getting all the way across the city without ever touching the ground.
Yeah.
Like, oh, that's Spider-Man.
Yeah. It's just, he's a little bit more in the air than, whereas Sunset we kind of had more grinding nature. This is more like swinging around, adding some parkour elements to them, and just really making sure that we have that sense of speed, fluidity, flow, and style that you expect from a more experienced Spider-Man.
Yeah. So you say a more experienced Spider-Man.
Yeah. Do you like how I threw that in there?
I like that. Yeah, that was a really good. That was a really good segue.
My PR people will be super proud of it.
Obviously, the stinger at the very end of the Sony conference was the shot of Miles Morales.
Yeah.
We are playing as a little bit older Peter Parker, but obviously Miles is going to play a role in the story.
So yes. I guess there was some confusion whether that was Pete or Miles in the suit.
Some people were confused. I thought it was pretty obvious.
Yeah, well, there's a line. It might be a little bit harder here. Is that he actually at one point when he's webbing the tail up, he says, "Come on, Pete, let's do this." He's referring to himself, and then Miles is in our game. I can't say a ton about him, but one of the reasons why we pushed to put him in the reveal, this demo is that we keep talking about a unique Spider-Man universe, and we're not, it's not attached to a movie, it's not attached to a particular comic series. We want to kind of, respect the traditions of the franchise, the DNA of the character, but we also want to mix things up, and Miles is a good example of that, but at the same time, this is a Peter Parker journey, right? And having Miles there is going to let us tell maybe a little bit different story when it comes to Peter than maybe people sort of used to, but it's still that Peter Parker that you love and know.
Yeah, so I want to talk a little bit about, we've seen so many iconic Spider-Man stories in books, in cartoons, in, games, movies.
Yeah.
How do you sort of subvert tropes and expectations and deliver something original while putting your own fingerprint on it?
It's hard.
Yeah.
We work really, we have a great staff of writers, designers, artists. It's really a collaborative experience, and then also working with Marvel, working guys like Mike Jones, Bill Roseman, and that crew, and also our Sony team as well, and thinking about if we just did the same story that a movie did, or even just saying, hey, there's a great line by Bendis or Slott that we really like, we just did the same events, people would be like, that's cool, it looks really fun, it's fun to play, but like there wouldn't be as much surprise. But we look at those stories, whether the original stories to what you're reading today is, what are the similar DNA strands that we can take and inject that into our story? And that's been really exciting.
Yeah.
And there's some really big, there's really some big surprises. And like, we're not telling a ton about the story in this. Sure. Obviously, we saw Fisk, we saw Martin Lee. But the thing we've been talking about is the best Spider-Man stories are when Peter's world and Spider-Man's world collide. And that's what we're going to do with, Martin Lee, because Martin Lee runs the Fee Shelters. Aunt May works at the Fee Shelter. Okay. That collision, and that's something we're going to be carrying across the entire game. And that's what makes the best Spider-Man stories whenever you've read them or you've watched them.
So is Peter Parker going to play a role in this game? Because generally Spider-Man games, it's Spider-Man.
For us, it's important to tell the story of Peter as Spider-Man, and they just go hand in hand. And this idea, when Spider-Man succeeds, Peter fails, and when Peter succeeds, Spider-Man fails. We want that kind of juxtaposition, if that's even the right word, I think.
That's a juxtaposition.
I thought it's not as smart. I don't know. It's been it's 2 days, right? I will tell you, I'm not going to go ton into the Peter side of things, but we want to deliver a human story, and having Peter be there, starting his career, he's just graduated college. All that's going to tie into the entire experience, and he will be very well represented for people who are just asking the question of whether he's playable or not.
Yeah. Does he work at the Bugle in the store?
He has a new job. He's a scientist.
Okay.
Scientist.
Oh, very cool. I was about to say, being like a photojournalist.
The Daily Bugle is in the game. You've seen probably billboards for it, but he's, we want to play up the science angle for him. He's a smart guy, man, and we want to tell that side. That's another example of where people probably traditionally people think photographer, Daily Bugle. Well, we're going to go a little bit older, lean into that science that helps with development of his suit, the gadgets, the web shooters, everything. So we really want to tie into that.
Yeah. Science also pays better than journalism. I think we can both attest to that.
Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit about the things we're seeing. I love this sense of heroism.
Yeah.
You don't get that a lot in superhero games. You get a lot of violence and beating up the bad guys, but you have to do things to avoid collateral damage in this.
Yeah. So I think for us, I'm glad you say that, because for us, there's a lot of New York City is a character within itself for us, and you can't have New York City without the people in it, right? And to be a true superhero experience, we want those big spectacle moments, but there's got to be stakes with it. Well, just the crane was falling in an empty city, it's just damage, right?
Yeah.
But we specifically put that shot of people looking up at the crane because there could be that Peter would never let anybody die like that, or that when the helicopter happens, he's first-person mode shooting at it. We want there to be real stakes to everything Peter's doing in the game.
That is absolutely incredible. I am so freaking excited for Spider-Man.
We're excited. You're excited.
2018?
Yeah, 2018.
Okay, so one of the 365 days in that year, we're going to get Marvel Spider-Man for PS4.
We just want to do it right.
Yes.
We know, I asked to specifically be on this game. Once we kind of got it rolling, I was like, I want to be part of this, because I know how important this character is to me. I know how important this character is to Insomniac. And also the amount of people talking about the game. The biggest compliment this whole week has been the number of thank yous I've gotten, and I don't deserve them. The team deserves them. Insomniac deserves them. And we just want to do the character justice, the world justice, and we're going to spend as much time as we can to get it right.
Brian, thank you so much. This is personally my game of the show so far. So
I like that. I like hearing that, because there's that Mario guy I keep hearing about every day.
Have never
Spider-Man.
Never heard of it. Spider-Man coming to PS4 in 2018. Brian, thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Everyone, stick around. We're gonna have so much more IGN Live right here at E3.
All right, here we go. Hey guys, this is James Stevenson, Community Director at Insomniac Games. We're broadcasting to you live both on Twitter and Facebook. Hi. Here with Spider-Man PlayStation 4 Creative Director Brian Intihar, as well as Marvel Games Executive Creative Director Bill Roseman.
Hey, executive. Whoa.
Crazy.
Fancy. Hey, true believers, what's up?
Hey, did you guys see? I know we showed it at the beginning, but this is crazy. We have Spider-Man on top of Mr. Negative's helicopter in the booth.
It's a real helicopter.
It's a real helicopter.
They didn't make a helicopter. They bought it, then they cut it in half, then they hollowed it out, then they put
it up there.
We pinned the tail on a skyscraper.
No expenses spared for our fans.
So guys, how's E3 going? Like, what's it been?
It's been the best 3 days ever, to be honest with you. It's been amazing. From closing the Sony conference to the reaction we've gotten at the show, it's been fantastic.
It's been amazing, and it's been spectacular. It's been
sensational.
Awesome. Yes. It's been so cool. We've been back in the lab working on this for so long. It was so great. It was both a relief and a thrill and an honor to finally share it with the public. And to hear that response, especially during the conference, during certain moments, to hear the reaction from the crowd.
As soon as the HUD came on and people knew it was real gameplay,
this is real game.
That's when that was awesome.
And at the end, when we showed Miles and everyone said,
it was fantastic.
Yeah. So it was been very rewarding, awesome time.
Okay, so like, it's real gameplay.
It's real
playing
gameplay.
in a theater. We were playing it stuff. Everyone plays this a little bit different.
Yeah.
Okay.
So talk to me about like the differences in like the combat and like the different things you can do. I mean, like we showed the web swinging and stuff. Like we were kind of making it nice and easy. And the thing you can web swing really fast too and get around.
Yeah. I mean, we do have a big open world that you can explore and swing around, and like that's you can even go faster than what you saw in the demo. And then also from a standpoint from the combat, you've seen everybody play it a little differently. Whereas like one of our, I think James, our other James, our animator, plays it a lot, using gadgets a lot more. Scott will use more aerial stuff, and then we have someone like Shane who is literally bouncing off enemies and web striking and really feeling like he's got that ping pong action going back and forth. We've all talked a lot about him being that acrobatic improviser, and that's we wanted you to adopt your play style how you want to play it. This is it sounded so like how it's been on point. It's awesome.
Right. It's 3 days of being on point.
It's awesome.
How about the girder? Is everyone spinning the girder, not spinning the girder?
I want them to spin the girder.
You gotta do that.
Has anybody put the tripwire, web tripwire on the girder?
So I've seen somebody put it on the wall, kick the guy up in the air, and then it gets boom. And then I've seen him place it on somebody, and actually they web slam each other.
If you put it on someone's back and like another enemy walks, they get slammed together and both go down. It's awesome.
I love it because it shows, Spider-Man should, and here he does, have a unique fighting style because he's intelligent, he uses his sense of humor, as you said, he's improvisational, he's acrobatic, he fights like nobody else, and the webs, and the spider sense, you add all that together, and I think the gameplay nailed it.
Yeah. So this is an original Spider-Man universe.
Yeah, so, you can tell as soon as you see his costume, this is not a Spider-Man you've seen before. He's recognizable, but he's a little different. He's more experienced, it's been about 8 years since he's gotten Spider Bite. He's experienced, he's like an athlete in the prime of his life. It is an originally standalone, it's our own story. We always want to give our partners, and we know that Insomniac is a master storyteller. We want to give them room to tell their own story, not make them fit between 2 TV shows or 2 movies or 2 comics, whatever. But instead, we take it all. We take inspiration from everything Spider-Man's done over the last 60 years. His cartoons, his films, his comics, everything, and kind of pick all the best ingredients and, like a chef, put it together in the kitchen to create their own new meal.
But I also think to go back to, we've talked a lot about when we created this unique universe, we talked about, well, we want to respect the tradition of the franchise, mix things up, but like, it goes back to our very first conversation when asked you, what makes a great Spider-Man story, and you said, Peter's world and Spider-Man's world collide, that's when the magic happens. And that's been driving us since that day.
And I think that's what inspired you to say, hey, can we use Mr. Negative?
That's right.
We weren't even thinking of Mr. Negative.
Yeah.
I mean, I love him. The character's only 5 or 6 years old.
Yeah.
But Brian said, hey, what about Mr. Negative? And I said, why not? He said, well, I really, as you said, I want to dig at that idea of Peter's civilian life and his costume life combining. And when you see the gameplay trailer, you see that he calls him Mr. Lee. Spider-Man / Peter, because Peter is always Spider-Man and Spider-Man is always Peter. He recognizes him. He knows who he is. And he knows that his aunt, his beloved Aunt May, works for Martin Lee. So you can only imagine the complications that might arise when this horrible new villain is involved in his aunt's life.
I want to know what he's been drinking for 3. He's got all wired up. He's ready to go.
I'm excited about that.
So I love it.
It's great.
I love these characters. And, big shout out to Dan Slott. He was the one that invented Mr. Negative. And I think people are going to, like you said, they're going to be surprised. We're going to see elements created by creators as far back as Stan Lee and Steve Ditko, and as new as Dan Slott.
Yeah,
Taking it all together.
I do think it's important to point out that people are like, well, are using all new villains, you're creating new ones. I think it's this demo shows what we're going to have, a healthy mix of people you really know, like Fisk and others, and some newcomers or like relatively newcomers to the list, like a Mr. Negative.
And the voice that was speaking this year, Yuri Watanabe, which is from the comics, and she's only a few years old. And in our game, you'll see that she has this relationship with Spider-Man. She's in contact with him, and that's kind of a new thing we haven't seen.
Yeah, I mean, I think I think one thing we want to see, not, some people may call him a menace, but some people also see the benefits of having him in the city, and she's one of them. That's one of the supporters.
And I think that's what's a great part about every Marvel story, and especially the Spider-Man story, is there's realism. So you don't imagine everyone on the police force to think the same, right? Yeah. You're right. So it's true. Like some of the cops think, hey, he's this vigilante, and he gets in the way of our investigations. But Yuri's like, I need someone on the outside that might not be tainted, might not be corrupted, and I may get in trouble, but I'm going to reach out to Spider-Man. So I just love these layers of realism and logic that we're stacking in the game.
So, like, speaking of characters too, I mean, a couple other characters we reference. Norman Osborn.
Well, you see a sign.
He's the mayor of New York. Osborn
or mayor.
And Miles Morales. So we've got some characters that are, familiar to fans, but maybe in new roles in this game too.
Exactly. I mean, we really wanted to mix it up. I was kind of inspired by, there was a comic book series called Ultimate Spider-Man, written by Brian Michael Bendis and drawn by Mark Bagley. What they did so cool there is they retold Spider-Man's origin, but they mixed it all up. In the very beginning, Aunt May and Uncle Ben were still alive, and you didn't know which one's going to die. And they brought Gwen Stacy back in a way, and they just kind of modernized everything and really kept you guessing. And so we kind of wanted to do the same thing. We wanted to use familiar characters, but in new ways. So you as a player, if you are a long-time Spider-Man fan, you're like, I just got to play this to find out what happens next. But even if you are, if you haven't read all these comics, it's all going to make sense. It's all going to be super accessible and super fun.
Yeah, I mean, for me, Miles is a good example of how we're going to change up make it a unique universe, because there's not some interdimensional portal that Miles stepped through. Miles lives in New York alongside Pete, and their role. And for us, also, this is very much a Peter Parker journey. Yes. And Miles is part of that journey, and also like the reaction that we got from the tease at the press conference, exactly what I was hoping for. Hardcore Marvel fans would be super excited. Yep. Some who may not know him are asking if they're Marvel fans, who is that? And then the conversation keeps going, and we think he's a great character. He's really going to have a great opportunity to be in our game and have a really unique part.
I agree. For those who may not know, so Miles Morales was a character that was also introduced in Ultimate Spider-Man, and originally he was from another world, another universe. And to come through, to team with Peter, they had to tell these big crazy stories, as you said, with dimensional portals and all that. And we said, what if we just have Miles part of this world? And he, as a character, is near and dear to our hearts. For us, he symbolizes how Marvel always strives to be inclusive. We think the Marvel Universe should reflect the world outside your window. We believe everyone can and should be a hero and have their own story. And Miles, for a lot of people, really symbolizes that. So we're really, really happy to have him here in the story.
So I think one thing that's cool about this, the piece you guys saw in the press conference and what we've been playing here, is it really shows three cool parts of the game. You've got the combat, which is a big part of the game, and this improvisational acrobaticness and webs. You've got traversal, which is huge, critically important to Spider-Man, but then also like, gigantic moments that only Spider-Man can survive, and only in that situation can Spider-Man save the citizens of New York.
That's right. And I love that you brought that point up. I love that, as you saw in that whole footage, he is saving people. He's not just letting the crane fall. He's not letting damage just happen to the city. He stops, he puts himself in jeopardy because he feels responsible. Because again, we're all about that power and responsibility. So Spider-Man is a hero, and we don't want to just talk about him being a hero. We want to show him being a hero. So he's constantly jumping around, doing that, saving that crane, getting the tail of the helicopter, making sure it doesn't hit people. I just love that it has those extra details. He doesn't kill, he saves.
I think it's really important to think about New York is a character within itself in our game, and it's not, if there was nobody in the city when the crane fell, it wouldn't be that big a deal, but you have that shot where you see people on the ground floor.
Or ducking and they're scared.
And we, for us, there's always got to be stakes that involve what's happening, and we want to push that. And this is actually early on in the story, and the stakes are only going to get raised as the story goes on.
another thing I love, and you talk about this a lot yourself, Brian, being kind of how Pete to you, there's a very personal aspect when he's like, you can do this, you can do this.
Yeah.
And like, I know
there's
like,
a lot of things in that that's very personal.
But I mean, like, you know, we're talking about a masterful Spider-Man, but it's still Peter Parker.
Yeah,
Can you talk about what his life is like and how he still, you know, he still has to juggle things even though he's good at being Spider-Man.
I think for the way I've been thinking about it is, whereas he definitely has more experience as Spider-Man, he's still trying to figure life out as Peter Parker. He was 23, which I made this connection last night. I was 23 when I graduated college, and I was starting my career.
Yeah.
I was like, did I subconsciously put that into the story or whatever?
Well, I think we very intentionally did.
Yeah.
Even though, like I said, he's been Spider-Man for 8 years, he's still very young.
Yeah.
Back when you were 23.
And you know, another thing we talk a lot about is, well, why is Spider-Man so popular? Why do people identify with Peter? Because I think it comes down to two things. They relate to him because he has a sense of vulnerability. When there's two lines that stick out to me a lot when we play this demo is during the halfway point of the chase, she'll say, "You got this?" He's like, "Yeah, I got this." And then he quietly whispers to himself, "I think I got this." And then there's that little bit of doubt. There's that little bit of Peter Parker, like I'm confident but not cocky. And then there's my favorite line, because it kind of symbolizes how I feel about the game sometimes, is the helicopter's falling down, we go to first person, he goes, "Please don't screw this up." And there's that, he knows, because if he screws it up, not only people die, but he'll be, you know, certain people will just call him out. And
imagine the headlines of the Daily Bugle now.
Yeah, and we also don't want to screw this up from the game perspective. So we always want that relatability, that vulnerability, and that's when it comes through, whether it's Spider-Man or even especially Peter Parker.
Cool. Are there any questions out there? I've got two camera guys that I don't know if you could read any questions on the screen. We got any? What?
What could the question be?
No, we're not talking about DLC yet. The game's not coming out until next year.
That's the only question.
That's a crazy question.
Other than that, I just see people. I just see compliments. I don't see a lot of questions.
All right.
Hey,
How old is Miles?
How old
is? Let's see. We haven't publicly stated, but he is definitely younger. You can tell when you look at the footage. He definitely looks like a teenager. He definitely captures that he kind of represented Peter himself when he first got bit by the spider.
Yeah. He's younger.
And I mean, I think every Spider-Man story is about coming of age. Yeah. So you have two individuals at different ages, different points in their lives, but they're still making choices that are going to impact the rest of their lives. They're still young in that sense. They're still coming of age. That's every perfect Spider-Man story.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, someone today asked me, you know, like Peter has all that personal life stuff going on. You know, he's trying to juggle his bills, his new job. He's a scientist. You know, we've got Aunt May. Peter always has someone special in his life.
Sure.
That's always complicated.
It's complicated.
Real complicated.
It's like that Facebook status. It's complicated.
Yeah, always. So, guys, you know, before we wrap up here, anything else you want to say?
I just want to say what a lot of people say to us. Thank you. Thank you for the support. And we know how important this character is to people. The fact that Sony and Marvel entrusted us to make this game, we just want to do it justice, and we're putting everything, blood, sweat, and tears, and mostly importantly, heart in this game, and we just want to get it right.
That's right. In making this game together, we've gotten to know each other, and we all found out that we all have a lifelong relationship with Spider-Man. We loved him.
Can I just tell one story? Like, this is like, I forgot this story, and I taught it last night. Like, I grew up in the Underoos days, and I didn't know, I was to the point where I would wake up every morning, I wouldn't know which superhero I wanted to be. So what I started doing is just putting on all the t-shirts, and one time my mom caught me wearing like 8 of the t-shirts. And because I was like, well, I don't know who I want to be right now. And I think just from that start to the comics and the action figures and the cartoons and now the movies and TV shows, we fall in love with these characters and universes, and we hope you guys fall in love with ours.
I couldn't have said it better. We love Spider-Man just like you do. It's by the fans. It's for the fans. Thank you for all your support.
Thanks,
Best
guys.
is yet to come.
Cool. So that's everything for today. Thanks to Brian and Bill for joining us. We're just wrapping up E3 here. There's like an hour and 10 minutes left of the show. Booth is popping, still showing more
Watch
demos.
GameSpot in an hour.
Yeah, watch. So Brian's actually headed right over to GameSpot live stream. If you want more from Brian,
30
you
minutes.
can tune in. It's like, 30, 40 minutes, 4:30, I think, on the GameSpot live stream. Plug. The award wall is looking great back there. We'll send out one more photo at the end of the day with all the awards. I say that, and the Game Informer award falls off the wall. That's my life.
Typical
I jinxed
Parker
it.
luck.
Yeah, total Parker luck. All right, guys, thanks for watching.
Hey
Hey guys, Chastity here at the GameSpot co-op stage. I'm here with my friend Timur, and we're going to talk about Spider-Man. Marvel's Spider-Man, coming from Insomniac Games. We have Brian Intihar, the creative director of Insomniac Games here. Thank you for coming.
Round of applause. I like it.
So excited. We have to talk about Spider-Man. I love Spider-Man. Timur, what do you want to know about Spider-Man?
Yeah, I'm a big Spider-Man fan too, and I guess it's kind of obvious why you'd have a Spider-Man around now, a new Spider-Man game, but why do you think this is a good time to return to Spider-Man? There's been a kind of lack of Spider-Man games recently.
Yeah, I mean, I just think it comes down to right time, right, hopefully developer, right partners, and with Marvel and Sony, and I think we made Sunset Overdrive. I remember actually reading a really early Sunset Overdrive review, and someone actually wrote, Insomniac would be great at making a Spider-Man game. And I actually copy and pasted that and sent it to Sony saying, see, we should do this. And, just in terms of us as a developer, Sunset Overdrive, we had a lot of fun with traversal.
Right.
A character that traverses a lot around. His sense of humor and his gadgetry fits Insomniac really well. And just as being a Marvel fan my whole life and being a big Spider-Man fan, it was a perfect fit.
Yeah, and obviously you're bringing a Spider-Man game to market at a time when the superhero genre has shifted quite significantly. Now there's games out there that, like Batman, for example, that have changed the perception of superhero games. So you can't get away with a half-assed superhero game anymore.
No,
so
I mean,
is that something that you think about? And
I have a lot less hair in my head because of that exact thing. I mean, first of all, a huge fan of Arkham, obviously, and but just if you even look at the movies, right? Like what Marvel's doing on the movie front or their TV shows. The level of the quality bar is raised so high, and I think you go back to your question, why now? Well, the need for a Spider-Man game that is that people really going to love. That's what we want to do. I mean, we feel like it's really the right time, and we feel like we hopefully can deliver it.
Right.
Yeah, I remember the sheer joy with the reveal last year, and then I felt equally excited seeing this trailer this year.
Yeah, I mean, and that's all gameplay. Like, I mean, that's the mission. I mean, we some parts a little bit shorter just for time, right? But that's an actual mission from the game. The mission start to the mission end. So
nice.
I think some people were kind of confused. Is this a trailer? No, like this is just we captured a mission. So it's and we're playing it. We've been playing it live at the Sony booth, both behind closed doors and at that big theater.
Right.
Cool. So for those that are not at E3 and have not had a chance to play, let's dive a little bit into this trailer.
Sure.
So let's talk about the mechanics. So we see web slinging. What's new?
Yeah. So I think I think of three big things. This is really a demo we put together that really shows what is our Spider-Man like. And first of all, it starts with combat, which you're seeing now. This idea of he's not just a bruiser. Actually, he's not a bruiser. He's more of an acrobatic improviser, right? He's combining webs, ground combat, air combat, environment action, stealth, and even gadgetry to give you a lot of player choice. And what you're seeing people play the game at Insomniac's playing it this week, they're changing up their strategy a lot. Second thing is traversal. We have to nail traversal. That's signature of the character, but we also want to expand his moveset and add elements like parkour. And in this demo later on, you'll see him running through an office building. All those parkour elements apply to when you're in the open world as well, whether you're on the street level or even on the rooftops. And then lastly for us, it's the spectacle moments. So it's like big blockbuster moments you would see like in an epic Marvel movie, right? And bringing those to life and letting you making you part of it. It really nailing that. So those are the three big elements when it comes to the Spider-Man side of this experience.
Can you talk a little bit more about the swinging? Because the trailer was quite focused on the action element of it. We saw a lot of combat, and we saw him kind of transitioning through these set-piece moments, but we didn't get as much swinging as we might expect.
So the portion after the crane till when you actually get thrown into the building, that's all gameplay traversal. We're just happen to be chasing a helicopter, but you can do that same sequence. I mean, you could traverse that same area in the open world. So that for us, it's about fluidity, flow, freedom, style, but at the same time expanding his moveset and in speed as well. So this is a short section of the game. It's a very story-based mission. The whole island of Manhattan is going to be available to you from day one.
So one of the
And also, just clarify, the webs actually do attach to buildings. That's a
All right.
very big
I
thing
was
for
going to
people.
ask about that.
The webs attach to buildings, I promise you.
So obviously everyone brings up Spider-Man 2 as the
I've
the
talked
benchmark.
a lot about it this week.
I actually, unpopular opinion, I loved the swinging from the Amazing Spider-Man game.
Okay.
I think that is probably my favorite swinging mechanic, just because the way you jump off a building and the camera swoops in behind you, it gives you this exhilarating feeling.
Yeah, I mean, we are still in development, so we're going to be doing more things with our camera to kind of sell the sense of speed, flow, and cinematic kind of feel as you swing it through the city.
I guess I was going to ask, like, what have you been looking at in terms of games and other Spider-Man material?
Everything. I mean, obviously, I go back as far as Spider-Man 1 on the PS1. When Neversoft, that game, that didn't have open world, but it definitely made you feel like Spider-Man. And then obviously Spider-Man 2, and then everything has come with it. But not just looking at Spider-Man games, but open world games in general. Obviously looking at Arkham and all, how they handled, dealing with an iconic character like Batman. We look at pretty much everything. I mean, this is a pretty beefy game, and we obviously want to see what other people have done, but add our own Insomniac flavor to it.
In terms of the combat, people are going to look at it, and from a surface level, it looks very much like Batman combat. But you've clearly done a little more tweaking to it. So can you talk a bit about how it kind of differentiated
I
it?
think, I mean, not to go too much into comparison, but I think one thing we really want to capitalize on is what makes Spider-Man unique. He's much more acrobatic. We have this idea of feeling like a ping-ponging around a different environment. That's what we want to sell. That I don't want to see him walking. I want we have a button dedicated to web striking because we want you to be really moving around the environment pretty well. Like you can see people when they play, they actually jump off enemies onto another one. Combining that with webs, all the environment interaction we have, really, I think it's again making you feel like you can play how you want, and depending on what situation you're in, the environment, the enemies, really being able to improvise and change your tactics.
Right. I think it's time to get a bit nerdy.
Yep. All right. So we
go
see
on.
Peter Parker in here, but we also see Miles at the end, right?
Yeah, Miles is in the game.
Okay.
What is the deal? What is his role?
So I can't go too much into it, but I think with Miles is I've been saying three things really. One is we talked about it making a unique Spider-Man universe. Miles is part of that journey. It's not some weird interdimensional portal that Miles came through and now he's there. He just is in the same world as Peter. Okay. Two is this is very much a Peter Parker story, yet having Miles there allows us to kind of tell a different side of Peter, show a different side of Peter. And third is I just love the character. I think he's fantastic, and I want to expose him to more people.
Right. Obviously, Miles is known for also being Spider-Man. Is there only one Spider-Man in this game?
We'll talk more with Miles about it.
Okay then.
This is our first extended version of the look at the game. We'll have much more to talk about. This is really, whether it's the combat, traversal, the world, and particularly the story, we're really scratching the surface. I was actually, a couple weeks ago, talking to some people about the whole story, and I went back to our lead writer, John Paquette, and I said, man, this is a pretty big game.
Yeah.
And I think what you're seeing is just scratching the surface. And we talk a lot about what makes a great Spider-Man story, and for Marvel's all about story. And when Peter's world and Spider-Man's world collide, that's when the magic happens. And we're going to see that not just with Martin Lee, who works at Feast, and Aunt May works there as well, but multiple characters and situations in our game.
Yeah. Can we talk about the villain here?
Martin Lee, So Martin Lee is a relative newcomer to the Spider-Man universe, which I would say represents we have a group of familiar villains like Kingpin, which you also saw on this, but you also see Martin Lee, a newcomer. And what we like, going back to those worlds colliding, Martin Lee allows us to kind of see that, whereas, because Aunt May works at Feast, the Feast shelter where Martin Lee's established them. But at the same time, from a gameplay standpoint, the inner demons with their abilities, the negative weapons, so the big guy with those negative energy attacks, it allows us to add a different type of strategy to our combat encounters.
Right. There's also, eagle-eyed viewers will notice, Yuri Watanabe is mentioned there.
Yeah, she's his police contact in this game.
Right.
Like another character we wanted to highlight, and I think Spider-Man's story, his relationship with the city is complex.
Yeah.
Some people think he's a hero. Some people love him. Some people think he's a vigilante. Some people call him a menace.
Right.
Yuri happens to be one of those people that believes the city could use someone like Spider-Man. So she goes out of our way to keep him in the loop.
I mean, Spider-Man's relationship with the city is complex, but his relationship with Yuri is also complex because obviously Yuri has an alter ego. She's Wraith. So is that something that you're kind of thinking about as well?
We have a lot. She's a great character, isn't she?
So are you going to try and kind of build in? You don't have to mention specifics, but like there's so many different complex characters within the wider Spider-Man universe. Are you kind of bringing those in?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the great thing is he does have a huge cast of characters, not just the villains, but also maybe characters like a Yuri Watanabe, right? And I think that we're going to lean on having a lot of Marvel characters that are part of the Spider-Man universe in this game, even in, let's say, not as well-known roles.
Okay, cool.
Nice. So let's talk about Peter's backstory in this game.
Yeah.
So he's been Spider-Man for 8 years, right?
You did your research.
Okay.
That's impressive. Yeah.
So what else do we need to know about him?
So he's 23.
Okay.
He's just graduated college, and he's working as a scientist. So it's not the Daily Bugle in this game for him. He's now we really want to push the, Peter's a really smart guy. He's really, and whether that's the design of his suit, his gadgets, we really want to lean into that side, the scientist, aspect of him.
Right. And his supporting kind of family, Mary Jane, any of those guys showing up? Gwen Stacy?
I talked about Aunt May.
Aunt May's the only one?
It's a pretty big cast.
Jameson?
Pretty big cast.
Pretty big cast.
Give us
I
more.
got
Give us
to come back and
more.
talk to you about.
Okay,
right?
cool. That's fine. That's fine. But yeah, I'm kind of like interested more in the way you're kind of building the city and what happens at ground level. That's the thing that is difficult to do. You get you have space in the sky, but when you reach the ground in a lot of Spider-Man games, it can feel quite empty.
So
how are you approaching that?
Yeah. So for us, New York City is a character within itself.
Right.
It was very important that it felt like a living, breathing city, and you can't have a living, breathing city without people and vehicles and interactions, and that's all there.
Right.
I'm not going super details of the open world, but I will tell you that this is a living, breathing city that knows Spider-Man is there and reacts to Spider-Man.
Okay. And in terms of like your progression through the story, is it it's an open world, but is it similar in terms of you have missions and side quests and that kind of thing?
Yeah,
or
I mean,
kind of
I would say we're not, like I said, I'm not going huge into the structure of the game, but there's a mainline story, and there are other activities to do in the world.
Okay, cool.
I want to ask about the White Spider.
Okay, so
tell me about that.
I will tell you. I can't tell you why the White Spider is there, like story reason, but I can tell you like the White Spider for us kind of signifies the suit design actually signifies our philosophy of the game. When you look at that character, you know that's Spider-Man, right? It's got the red, it's got the blue, it's got the mask. But you look at the big white spider, it looks a little different, right?
Yeah.
You know that's Insomniac Spider-Man. That's our universe. But at the same time, we didn't want to do it just for shock value or to get some hate email or whatever I've got. There's a very specific story reason for it, and you'll understand that reason when you play the game. Everything we do, we try to have a story reason for it.
Cool.
Will there be a moment where something bad happens and he gets all angsty and colors it in black? Because if that happens, I'll be very upset.
Now, do you like the suit?
I like this suit.
Okay,
yeah, I like it. I like the eyes. Can you talk about the eyes?
Oh yeah. So that's a great question. I actually haven't got that question a lot. The challenge with obviously you can tell it's a very it's a realistic looking game, right? And when you have a character whose face is covered, it's hard to get emotion, expressiveness. But you look at the comics, his eyes are very expressive, right? And while they may not be as dramatic as some of the comics do, we wanted to use the shape of the eyes to kind of communicate how he's feeling, give him some expression. So, that's really our animators, our riggers, our character artists really gave us that flexibility to be able to manipulate his eyes to have more expressive character.
And it seems to work. I mean, you look at the Deadpool movie, and that's one of the things that people praise it for.
The thing is, I saw it in Civil War, right? And I was like, we're going to do this already. We were going to do it already. But it just shows we're on the same page, which to me says we're doing something right.
Yeah.
Okay, so the game is coming in 2018?
2018,
That's all you can say?
That's all I can say.
That's all you can say. All
we got to get it right. The most important thing about this game is we know how important it is to fans. We know how important it is to us because we are fans, and we just want to spend the time to get it right because they deserve it.
All right. Brian, thank you so much for coming.
Thanks for having me.
Give a round of applause for Brian.
Thank you.
Looking forward.